Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hey, everybody. I'm here with Joe. He's back. Let's go, Joe. What's up? What's on your mind?
Okay, so this is funny because I'm talking like this thing's being recorded, and I got left in the dust over here by Celeste, so y'all know this. Wait a minute, this says here, meeting is being recorded. Do I have to hit okay, or can I just go with this?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, now are we being recorded? Because I don't want to.
You don't worry. Don't worry. It's just to make sure that you're not going to come at me later and be like, I never said you could record.
I never said you could record. Who wants to talk to me anyways? But okay, so going back to where we started, we were shooting shit before the started recording, and obviously the year has ended. The NPC IFBB Pro League season, we've done the Olympia, the Nationals. It's time looking forward into 2024, and of course, the first thing we have right off the rip is the women's seminar, and we were talking about how fast it booked up, and I'm talking, we did 500 reservations the first day before the day was over. That's how
I know that's
fast.
true too, because I saw that it was live and I was watching that page like a hawk, refresh. Soon as it went live, I'm like, oh my gosh, sent it out to some of my girlfriends. They're like, I'm on the wait list. I'm like, what? How did that even happen?
It happened that fast. And like I said, it's a testament to how good Sandy is and how good she is for this industry. And I'm just lucky that I've got to work with her this long, and I've known her for ever and a day. And we always tease each other because me and her husband, Ted, our paths have crossed so many times in this industry, even when I didn't know her. And, contests we were at the same time, probably sitting a couple seats away from one another. And it's just funny how, life kind of unfolds. But I'm so excited for this seminar because it really does kick off the competition season. And, we have so many great guests coming in. And the one thing that I said that the audience didn't get to hear, there's a really special guest speaker. Here it is, ready to build up. It's you. So it's you. So we have so many cool things this year because we have the space to do real true breakout sessions and allow people to pick and choose topics they might want to hear or more interested in. So at the women's seminar, it'll be a nice mix instead of maybe sitting through something you're not as really truly interested in. Or for instance, you're a true novice competitor. There's a special section just for that, just for first time competitors. So this is going to be a really unique moving part weekend. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But the other thing is if you look at the guest speakers, if you go to the website,
I'm on the website. I'm going to read this to people so they know.
Yes, but I go just starting with like the bikini and going through, women's physique and going through wellness. I just looked at it and I went, wow, there are so many. And you also have the top of our leadership group coming. So you'll have Tyler, you'll have Etala, this is going to be a wonderful time for athletes to get questions answered, learn a little bit, network with people, have some fun, and get to know one another. And we'll get into some other, competition stuff, especially with the Klash series and things. But I always tell people, this is our group. These are our people that we're going to know for the rest of our lives and who we're going to hang with and be friends with. And I just go, this is one of those events where I go, it is a do not miss event. And I think everyone who's been to the last two can agree with that. They are just amazing, amazing events. And let's read that list. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the different topics, and then we can spitball on that because that'll start jarring our brains, and we'll just keep on yakking the whole time. So
yeah, let's yak. So first of all, I'm so excited to be speaking. That was a dream come true for me. So when I went last year, I was like, who's talking about mental health? And then I'm like, no one's talking about mental health. I'm like, I need to get here next year. And I was so inspired by Sandy because she's up there saying how grateful she is for all the women who want to contribute their time and energy, and how this is it's like a volunteered group basically of women who want to contribute and help each other. And hearing her talk about that and being so passionate, like as a woman who wants nothing more than to serve the community in this way, I was like, I need to reach out, because if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to email her. I'm going to send her my resume, my CV, just tell her how excited I am, talk to her about some of the other events and stuff I've contributed to. And within like a very short period of time, she was like, we would love to have you. And that I cried. I was like, because you already know this about
Well, I was in on all these conversations. So I go, on the other side when we sat down, because this is something that everybody out there should know. Sandy and I talk damn near every day, and we talk about everything that'll make the sport better and what we can do to make it better and how we can change things, do things. And this is something this event started very dear to Sandy's heart. And so yes, when we talked, your name came up, and it was a very simple, you got to have her there, Sandy. So this is, I always tell people, I go, I look at things probably very similar to Sandy, and how we can make not only the sport better, but make our athletes stronger as people. And you've heard me say this a million times, our competition life is only going to last for so long. But hopefully, if we're lucky, we get to live a long, healthy life and have, a great family, community, friends that we're surrounded by. But this is so important to understand the aspects of how everything and how important it is with what we do, that it carries over into the rest of our lives. So when your name came up, to me, it was an easy call. I'm like, oh, you got to have her, Sandy. So, but back to our little list here. So you're going to speak in the main ballroom. I believe it's in the afternoon session, if my memory's serving me correctly.
You're right.
And that'll be a lot of fun. And that is something that I think anyone out there listening to this who has never heard you speak before needs to take advantage of this. And you'll have the opportunity, because the way like I said, it's split up, is even if someone has another session they want to go to, those sessions will be a half hour each, so they can come and catch you on the next one, which is basically you're going to do the same presentation, if I'm not mistaken, twice. If I got that right.
That's my understanding as well. And I think that's like the coolest part about this, is people get to pick and choose, like you said, and you're not going to necessarily miss out because you get to choose two. And when you look at the list, there's a ton, and this is aside from the agenda, you guys. The agenda is already packed with amazing things. So then you add on top of that the breakout sessions, and it's like, oh, you mean now I get to go sit in a room with these people and actually not just hear them, but connect with them. Like, my goal is to create and foster an environment of connection when we're in that room together. And I think to have that opportunity, like, I'm going to read some of these. So in the morning, you've got your true novice, you have social media and marketing, which, hello, one of the things that we should be taking advantage of as athletes, as competitors, is how can we make a brand? How can we make a name? Or how can we support other brands that we believe in having their own name or their own mission? At least that's how I see it. I think you guys would agree, because marketing this is a business. Let's be honest.
And that is such a good point. And I bring this up to athletes from beginners to our Olympians. And this is a conversation I have with athletes all the time. I say, listen, the sky doesn't open up and money doesn't fall out. I go, but when you're working in this industry, you're creating your chances. When you get that opportunity, you have to know how to handle those opportunities and how to make them work for you. And everybody works so hard. It's one thing to have the beautiful body, but you have to think about how you're going to make a career out of this, or how, even if it's not a career you want to make, how you want to market yourself, because these things are so important. And a lot of people just automatically think, well, I became a professional. And I go, yes, that's an amazing accomplishment, but now what are you going to do with it? And it's so many questions and so many things. And I go, we have people who are really good at this, who live this on a daily basis, and they're going to be talking about it. I go, you couldn't ask for a better setup or situation. And I sit there and I go, okay, this is one of those things where I go, you learn every day. You should learn something new every day. I've used that. You've heard me say that. I said that at a seminar we were at together one time. I said, learn something new every day. One thing. You learn one thing new every day. You've learned 365 new things in a year that are going to enrich your life. So I go, this seminar is going to really make a big difference for a lot of people, especially if it's a newer competitor who's coming in and they go, you're right. You're going to get to network with people who have been through things, have different experiences, who, it's such a unique environment, and I'm glad we get to do it, and to even be more spoiled that it's right here in Florida for me. I'm excited and I can't wait. And it's, like I said, I'm ready to chomping and raring to go right now. So,
I know. I'm so excited. I think the best part, like, yes, learning, knowledge, experience, also connection, which is the very first thing you mentioned, was that community and the relationships you're going to develop. It's not every day in bodybuilding that you actually get that opportunity in your day-to-day life, I should say, to connect with those people outside of the internet. And thank goodness for that, right? That we have that opportunity to connect that way. But
yeah,
it's different to meet in person.
yeah, and it is, and it's and I've told you this story. I go, years ago, pre-internet, you didn't really get to know anyone or even communicate with anyone on a daily basis because there was no email, there was no anything. So you waited till a show came to town, and then you went and met someone that you saw in a magazine who inspired you, and hopefully, you like that person even better afterwards because
Sometimes you don't.
You don't, exactly. I'm going to be brutally honest. Some people just aren't great communicators. So some people left impressions on me that they're no longer here, but or some that are, but I go, when I see them now 30 years later, we just laugh and laugh and laugh. And I go, this sport it'll enrich your life as much as you want it to. And that is the key. I go, and I know a lot of people go, oh, there he goes again. He's just talking. No, I'm telling you, this sport can do so much for you, but you got to be open to how you're going to be part of it and not expect it to do everything for you, but it's just to enrich. It's a strong part of your life. And competition is hard. We all know this. Dieting is a pain in the ass. It really is.
Yeah.
We all have time where we want to break mentally. But you can get through all this. You can get on that stage. You have accomplished more than, like I always say, 99.9% of the world ever could. And it's an amazing feat. This is going to be, like I said, let's roll back to the seminar before I get off on my tangents, which I always do. This seminar gives everyone that opportunity. And if you're in this new to the sport, you haven't met, say, a Laura Lee or a Francielle, and those are just a couple names. I mean, there's so many pros that'll be there. And there's people that aren't even on that list who, when you meet them, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I follow this person on social media. I know this person. I want to get to know them better. I want to talk to them. I want to have them help me in my career. Most of our attendees, in some way or another, are working in this industry, or at least it's a part-time of their lives. So this is a great opportunity to meet people who trial and error. They've experienced the good and the ups and the downs, and they can help you. And whether it's something as simple as how you pose, which that'll come up during the seminar. Of course, there's a lot of that, or what to expect at the shows where, say, for instance, Tyler gets up and talks about the organization itself and you've never competed before. It's kind of nice to know. It's good to have that knowledge. And of course, obviously, you got Sandy there, and you can't ask for a better person in this industry as a role model for how good the sport can be to you. So all that being said, I go, let's jump back to our list here. And we were talking about, we have sessions in the morning, we have sessions in the afternoon, we have posing, we have lunch, we have people talking during lunch, we have breakout sessions. It's going to be a busy
well
Saturday.
And can we highlight something about this event that's really key? Is it's free.
It's free. I knew you were going to say that, and I go, yes, it is free. And let me tell you something. Sandy spends a lot of time, trying to get people to sponsor this event, and we all do. And we also throw our own money into it.
Yeah.
So this is something that we feel is important. We want to make sure that it's well attended, obviously, but we want to make sure that it prepares people and at least gives them, and we, not just this seminar, but I mean, if you watch, you're going to see them pop up all year long in Florida. You'll see them across the country from California all the way to New York. I know Big Steve's got one going on up in New York. I know Gary's got them going on in the Mid-Atlantic. I mean, Trey does them in the Carolinas. Vince over in Georgia. I mean, everybody is trying, and these seminars are free. I go, now this one's a little different because it's a little bit, the scope is a little different with just the women, but it's also, there's lunch involved. There's other things. It's kind of more of a multifaceted. A lot of the other seminars will be just strictly posing or maybe question and answers, but this one is definitely a good life building seminar. And I like to use those words. It's a life building seminar. It's one that'll give you a little more in-depth detail into the sport. So all that being said, it is free, and hopefully you all made it on the list. And you know, even if you were on the wait list, Sandy had been going through people when they would cancel.
My friend just texted me. She's like, I'm coming to the workshop. I'm like, this is crazy. You got off the wait list. She's like, yeah. I was like, good job for putting yourself on it, because apparently it can happen.
Yes, and it does. And what happens is when people called in, that's something Sandy does every day. When people would email in or, you know, send their regrets that they couldn't make it, they had to be removed from the confirmation list, she would start sending, sending out emails to the people on the wait list. And all you had to do was click that link and you were in.
Which is a very considerate thing for those who are no longer coming. Consider if you can't make it anymore, consider those who would really like to be there and maybe don't have that opportunity yet or didn't get on as fast as you. Because I know sometimes you put your name on the list and then you don't want to pay for the trip or the hotel or whatever it is. So,
or, you know, or life comes up. I mean,
life happens.
Family life happens. Yeah. Work, family, you know, holidays had just ended. You know, we get into January. A lot of people can't take off of work. They thought they could, and then they can't. So, you know, it's fun to watch this unfold. Because like I said, to see 500 people come together for this seminar is going to be just wild. You know, NPC News, JM will be there with NPC News Online and Debbie. I mean, there's going to be a lot of media coverage. It's just going to be, I call it'll be the place to be on Saturday the 20th for sure. Well, so I'm going to see everybody there.
Yeah.
Video. And this video better get like 1 million hits or
Joe, don't put that pressure on me.
There's the pressure right there. Okay, girls, you got to share this out there, because if you don't, I'm going to be really sad and then I won't come back ever again.
No. Oh, yes. We'll never have Joe back again, because if this doesn't get shared, that would mean that you guys don't want him on and you don't like the podcast. So
I'm thinking that if we don't get at least 1 million shares out of this, girls, no.
Something wild for that, Joe. We've got to say something really controversial for that.
You got to wait till the end of the video. Maybe I will. You never know. Maybe I got a big surprise I'm going to let out.
Uh-oh. And we are on video, you guys. This is on YouTube, Celestial_fit. So you don't know what you might see. You don't know.
Never know. I don't know. But I just, like I said, I do hope everybody watches this, because we're going to talk about a lot of fun things. So let's.
Well, can I highlight something else really quick, Joe?
What's that?
I want to highlight the women who have been on the podcast who are going to be at this event, because I want people who have been listening, you guys, this is your opportunity to come and meet these athletes in person. If you didn't get to come to my podcast party, which actually I did at the Sunday after the last women's workshop, because everyone was already in town, I was like, let's do a podcast party. And you guys got to meet a lot of great athletes. Come to this event. You can meet more of these bikini pros. So Jen Dory, she's been on, Ashley Kalwasser, Laura Lee, she's been on, Amy Delgado's been on, Jessica Wilson's been on, Brittany Hamilton's been on, me and Hope go back and forth trying to get her on. Mia Barchi, she's been on.
Wait, Hope hasn't been on?
No, dude, I've been trying. And me and her were on a sponsored team together. You got to text her and be like,
I'm gonna text her as soon as I get off this thing. I'm gonna get off and be like, Hope, really? Seriously? Get your ass on here. Let's go. Yes. Mia's been on though, right? Mia's been on here, right?
Mia Barchi's been on, and she and I were messaging about how she's going to be talking about the schooling and pursuing bodybuilding and schooling at the same time. I think that's a really awesome thing to be able to learn from people who are doing it. We have Jamie DeBernard. She's going to be there. She was on the podcast during Coaches series. We had Margaret. So Margaret from Toxic Angels Bikinis. Yep. She's been on the podcast. She did a presentation series. She was part of the presentation series, I should say. Obviously, you're going to be there. You've been on now twice, which is great. We've had Camille. So Camille Perriott came on back in 2018 when the podcast very first launched. That was
second place at my very first pro bikini show was Camille.
she's a legend.
She is a legend, and let me tell you something. I go, an amazing athlete, and the funniest part was, I say that to her all the time. Well, you were second, and she goes, but no, it's always good to see. It's
real.
I always love seeing Camille. One of my dearest people that I enjoy in this sport. She's just such a nice soul, and keep going. I love this list because I go. It's so fun to be involved with all these athletes and see them grow and watch their careers. And I can't wait to see all of them because we have so much fun when we're all together. It's like a giant laugh, giggle fest. And it's just, I shake my head and I go, I don't know how I ended up in this portion of the sport, but here I am. So
stuck with all these women. What a shame.
It's the worst thing in the world. Let me tell you. Yeah. And one of my business dearest friends and business partners, Shannon Day, will be there.
I was just about to say her name. She is also a legend. I spoke at one of her events back in 2022, Bombshell. That was awesome. And we're going to have literal legends, Whitney Jones, Linda Murray. There are people, and I'm seriously like shocked every time. You're also going to see Becky Clausen, which you guys don't follow her on Instagram. She usually does really great judging breakdowns as well. Mo is popular out here. So, right?
No,
like
Mo is
legendary.
Mo is one of my dearest friends. And when for years ago, when I got out of the sport, I don't say got out of the sport, but I didn't judge anymore. I went away, just was still involved. But when I came back, Mo was one of the first. Her and Trey Bennett were probably the two people that really sucked me back into this. And Mo has been, we talk all the time, and I just one of the best judges I've ever worked with in my life, and one of the best at giving critiques as well. And we have a great, like you said, you have Becky. Becky's wonderful when it comes to giving critiques and helping athletes get better and where they need to be. Going back for a second too with Shannon, with Shannon and I have a lot planned for this year. But I'm listening to the names and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is so amazing for so many people who, if you've never met these people, or if you've only met them on social media, you're really going to have a good time. And the knowledge in the heads of these personalities, we'll use the word personalities, that are coming is amazing. I always tease Shannon Day, you talk about going back. I always tell her, I remember your Who Let the Dogs Out routine when she was doing fitness. And she just laughs and laughs and laughs. So, and if you don't know that, go look it up. I think it's on YouTube somewhere.
I'm about to look that up later.
I think it's on YouTube somewhere, but if not, we'll find it and I'll put it on my website or something. But I know it's out there somewhere. But let's keep going. Let's keep going through this list because, like I said, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg on this.
Yeah, so, and I know I'm focusing a lot on like the bikini people because that's the majority of the demographic. But obviously, Linda Murray's not bikini. But you're gonna see these incredible.
You mean my favorite Miss Olympia of all time? Don't tell Andrea Shaw I said that. Don't tell Corey Easterson I said that. Don't tell anyone I said that. But I say that to Linda all the time, and we have a running joke about that. But she is a wonderful. Speaking of so knowledgeable, and just one of the nicest people I've ever met in the sport, and always is just a role model. And I know that no one ever wants to be said that they have to be a role model. She is just that person. She is such a gracious soul and so kind. So Linda is one of those people that if you have never met her before, you're in for a really big treat with that. But let's keep going down the list. Let's see what else we can spitball on.
Yeah, I was going to say that something I remember from my last experience, and actually going back to Mo, when I moved to South Carolina, I got to start spending more time with my friend Kate, and she was telling me about who's done a lot of Klash shows, Kate Aurora.
Kate and I used to train together.
Really?
Yeah, it trains good. Yeah, that's when awesome. I was still wearing my ratty old flannels and sweatpants and my life was still like I could still move weight back then. So oh no, okay. As a matter of fact, it was so funny at the uh, World Clash in Charleston, South Carolina. I did the emceeing during the day, and I'm at the stage, and all the girls are on the stage, and Kate's standing literally like right at my shoulder, and I turn around, I go, "Hi, Kate."
Oh, I love that.
It was just so funny because her and I go back a long way. One of the another person who's just a sweetheart in the sport and has been around for a long time as a competitor. But more importantly, a mom, a great businesswoman. She's
great businesswoman.
Yes, she's a very, very, very wonderful person. So, but let's keep going. I interrupted on Mo again, and Mo's going to kill me. She's going to go, "Would you shut up so you guys can talk?" I know exactly what Mo will say to me. Would y'all shut up so you can talk about how great I am? I hear it now. Yeah, I said it, Mo. I said it. What are you going to do about it?
That's awesome. What I think is cool too is when I went last year, you're not just seeing the people who are on stage or in this upcoming case in breakout sessions, but last year, it's not just the people who are on stage, but from the moment you walk in the door, you're going to see people you recognize, whether you're friends with them online or you've seen them on stage or they just won their pro card and you watched that journey, whatever it might be. You're going to see people that you recognize, or you're going to meet a lot of new people and make friends. So even if you went alone to this event, I can guarantee you won't feel alone at the event. And I think that's that's something that's special about the NPC and the IFBB. And you mentioned earlier when Tyler was talking, even last year when he was talking about the NPC and IFBB, and you had the same thing and Sandy was going on. All I could think was if you've never been exposed to the NPC and IFBB and you question it for whatever reason, or you're not sure if it's the league for you, I do think that this gives you the opportunity to see that it's a league that is supporting beyond what's happening on stage. Even though bodybuilding appears maybe surface level to others, I think this event is a really great proof that it goes so much deeper than the surface. Another reason I really wanted to be a part of it, because like we said in the beginning, let's empower people. And me and you have had many conversations about this, but there's life outside of competing. And I wanted to ask you this for the podcast and have you kind of share your thoughts on it. But why do you think it's important for not even just women, everybody who competes to be considering life outside of competing? Like, why for you, Joe, is that actually something you're passionate about?
Because everything this sport gave to me built my entire life, and it changed everything for me when I was a kid. And I've had this story. I don't know if I talked about it on the last time we got together, if we've talked about it on the phone, but I said, as a kid, you get into general mischief, trouble, you start hanging out with the wrong people, your life might be going the wrong way. Long story short, I got lucky because the person that I met was one of the best bodybuilders in the world at the time. And he lived right in my city. He trained at the gym I was going to go to. And he watched me train for a while. And he said, "You know what? I asked him to train me. I was going to pay him." And he looked at me and he goes, "I watch how you train. You train really hard. You're 15 years old, whatever you are." He goes, "You train with me." So we started training together. And to have somebody like that who became a influence and a guiding light in your life, I was lucky. So for me, I go, I'm going to always pay that forward. Do for others what he did for me, which was, at 15, then 16, then 17, you're competing and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to start taking drugs, or I'm going to do something, he would never let me. He would get me he would tell me, "You're not going to hang out with these people because it's not good for you." He always was a true friend, more of a brother or family member than a friend. And I go, the greatest thing about that was watching him go through his trials and tribulations in the sport, coming so close back in the day when you had to win the overall at the national, you had to win your class at the nationals or the overall at the USA. He won his class at the USA. So then you had to go to the Mr. Universe or the World Games at the time, and you had to win your class there. And he took second when he went there. So it was like every time he got close, and finally he's still on record as the oldest open male bodybuilder to get a pro card. He was just almost 40 years old, and he got it in 1993 at the Nationals. It was in Fort Lauderdale that year. And I'll never forget that, you know, he got off the stage and Jim Mannion looked at him and he goes, "Steve is back." And it was just it was a moment that I'll never forget, because it was a proud moment for me as a training partner, as a friend. And then, of course, we went and did all kinds of contests after that. I went with them to the night of the Champions, which is now the New York Pro Big Steve show. We went to Toronto. We went to California. We were all over the place. And then we did 3 Masters Olympias. One in Long Beach, California, and 2 in Virginia. But I look back on that and I go, okay, so the sport has always given me confidence, it's given me drive, it's given me work ethic, it's given me and I could go on and on the subject. But what I always want to do is be able to return that to others. Yeah. But also in my own mind, I go, I've been lucky, blessed, however you want to say it. I go, I've been successful in my business careers. I've done a lot of great things in my life. I've traveled the world. All of that comes from bodybuilding. Dedication, determination, work ethic, all these things. Without bodybuilding, I would have probably fallen off a path somewhere and done something really stupid with my life and probably wouldn't be where I'm at right now. And don't get me wrong, we all make mistakes.
We do.
I could write a volume on making mistakes. But just because you make a mistake doesn't mean it's permanent. You learn from it. And I've made, you know, obviously in life, I've made relationship mistakes. I've made, you know, career mistakes. No one is perfect. But what you learn from it is like with bodybuilding, the bar didn't come off the ground. It's coming off the ground next time. It's going to change. You have to keep moving forward. So that great line from Rocky where he's talking about, you know, the world's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not. But if you wake up every day and you got that let's go positive attitude, I want better. I want things to happen the way I want them to happen. You set your goals, you make it happen. You break that one, you do the next one. So bodybuilding is that foundation that has taken me from competing, which I always tell people, kind of a block. So it's easy for me to get kind of blocky looking. I wasn't going to be, you know, there was no classic back then. It didn't matter anyways. I had a small waist, but I was never going to be a great bodybuilder. But everything I learned, and, you know, I was fortunate because I trained with the best of the best all around the world. And I loved every minute of that. And I love training. Once again, another thing that is very important in how you see the rest of your life. And I touched on it for a second about, hey, the bar didn't come off the ground. You better get it the next time. So for me, everything has kind of rolled into this big moment. Mm-hmm. And that's really what it does. It brings out the best in people. Or if you're not careful, bring out the worst. But if you do the right things, whether it's in business and, you know, life, good things will follow. The old karma rule. So I always tell people, I go, without bodybuilding, I wouldn't be where I am. Business wise, I did great. I retired out of the construction world in my 40s and wasn't ready to sit back and do nothing. And the opportunities came along for promoting.
Yeah.
So then we started promoting bodybuilding shows. And it's so funny. I always tell people, all you get in life is an opportunity. And I say this to athletes every day. I say, when you get an opportunity, you better be ready to work, because it's not going to come just to you. You have to go take advantage of it. So my first chance to do a bodybuilding show, Trey Bennett looked at me and said, all right, we were in the gym one day just training, and we were actually doing cardio. He looked at me and said, I'll give you a chance. Well, the show the previous year at that location had 50 people. So he gave me the chance, and we had 252 the first year. Bodies, not crossovers. That was bodies.
That's awesome.
We were about 4. So, and we were in this little place that was sold out, packed. I mean, we had the fire department there saying, y'all are breaking fire law. I mean, it was mass chaos. Nice. But I always tell Jim Mannion, and Jim is the one that I always go when it came to judging and everything else. Jim, Sandy, they kind of brought me into this, and I was the last pro league head judge that Jim appointed before Tyler took over all the judging. And I always tell Jim every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every time I see him, I always tell him I'm thankful. I say I'm thankful for opportunity. You never gave me, you don't give anybody anything, but he gives you an opportunity. Trey did the same thing. Here's an opportunity. Sandy, same thing. Here's an opportunity. How are you going to take advantage of that? And it's not take advantage. I don't want to use that word. How are you going to utilize that and make your life better, but make other people's lives better? So the very first national shows I ever judged, after I passed my national, back in the day when you would pass it, you'd have to take like so many years of experience, so many years of amateur judge, local judging, then you could be recommended to go test judge at the national level. I went to the nationals. I got my national credentials, I guess you would say. So now there's so many, there were so many national judges. This is back in like 2015, 14 or 15, whatever it was. But I would drive on my own dime, Charleston, South Carolina to Pittsburgh. And I would stay at the Red Roof Inn up the road from the Sheraton station. And I'd do this all on my own dime. And then I would go and I would, when someone needed a break, I'd sit down at the table and judge, because they had so many judges with seniority and everything else, but you just want to show people how you can do. And I like to, I have a passion for it still. I still love to judge. So I would do that. And then eventually there was a night, I'll never forget it. One of the judges said, "Hey, come here and sit in my seat for a few minutes." And he just left.
He didn't come back.
He didn't come back. So I was there the rest of the night. And then after that, Gary, who I've known Gary for a long time, is one of my favorite people in the world. Gary started texting me going, "Hey, my man, can you come up and judge?" And I was like, okay. And then, gates, doors opened. Yeah. But I go, it didn't come without sacrifice. Nothing was like, oh, you just got to hand it to you, or you just, you moved so fast and I moved. Sandy and Jim moved me quick between judging at the local level to the national level to the pro level to head judging and I would tell you a story. I love telling this story. The very first pro show I ever had judged, we get to the show. It was the old Europa shows, and it was in Orlando, and it was women's physique and classic physique. And the phone rings, and Trey was sitting next to me, and it's Jim. And I hear Trey say, "I think that's a good idea. Okay, let's do that." Trey gets off the phone. He looks at me and he goes, "By the way, you're head judging women's physique." And I was like, "What? Say what?" I mean, if you've never done that before at a pro level, if you really believe in what you're doing, you're always nervous. If you ever see a judge who sits down and you ask them, "Are you nervous?" when they sit at the table and they say no, that's not good.
Nervous about what? Nervous about what?
And I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. You should always be nervous, because here's why. I know what every one of those athletes went through on that stage. I know how hard they worked. I don't want to screw it up. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to overlook somebody or second guess myself. I go, that's why you always want a great judging panel in front of you, because they should be talking amongst each other in case, as the head judge, a lot of times you're so if we're in a foreign country, you're trying to speak 3 languages, you're trying to do all kinds. So you've got to have good people around you. But going back for a second, I go, you should always be nervous as a judge, because you should always be thinking, I don't want to make a mistake. And you should always, in your heart, know, I know what it's like to be up there. I don't want to be overlooked. You watch any athlete on the line at a show, and when they don't make first call out, the shoulders start to slump, and you can see the deflation happen. And you watch that, like the 4th call out comes out, it's hard to accept as an athlete, because you've worked so hard. But I don't want to make a mistake. I want to judge it so I can explain to the athletes afterwards, this is how I saw it and what you need to do to be better. So that is the key as a judge. But I progressed relatively quickly, and Tyler is actually the one. He said, this year you're going to judge a couple classes at the Olympia, and that was 6 years ago. So I progressed very quickly, and I worked very hard to get there. And I would tell people, so don't ever think things can't be done. You just have to put your effort forth. And I'm thankful for every opportunity I got. I'm thankful for Tyler for giving me that opportunity, for Jim before that, Sandy before that, and Trey before that, and working with Mo. So when you brought up Mo's name, this is where this all spitballed from. Mo was one of the people who when I had done some judging in the early 90s, And of course, life takes over. You go on to college, you move off, you kind of leave that world behind. It just was an extra thing in your life. And when I came back, you know, to sit down with Trey and Mo and learn from them was amazing, but also to be given opportunities. You know, if you work hard, nothing you do nothing is impossible. So I've always had that attitude in life. I'm like, all right, let's go. When I talk to an athlete and they say, hey, can we talk about what are my chances of getting to the Olympia this year? I go, you can get to the Olympia this year. You've done it before. Why can't you do it again? Mm. And they look at me and they say, well, we mean I'm not what you're looking for as a judge. I go, you can reshape your body. You're that good. You're at that level where you're an Olympian. You are the best of the best. And I tell all our Olympians, never be disappointed when you get to the Olympia, or maybe you don't make it one year. You know, we talk about Bikini a lot because Bikini is our largest numbers. The largest number of competitors in the organization is in Bikini.
Can I pause with that? Because sure. Bikini is the largest number, I'm going to ask you a controversial question. Why aren't they paid more?
Well, and you think you're the first person who's asked this question?
No, I don't think that at all. I
ask it all the time. And one of the responses is, you know, there are more people there, but their response is, of course, the statistics that they study at the top of the, you know, like I said, above my pay grade, the sponsored dollars, the dollars that are driving the business, and this is the business side of the conversation. Right. They want to put their money behind men's bodybuilding. I always go, listen, I'm a men's bodybuilder at heart, love the sport, never going to change. But I go, wait, there's only 10 guys on or 10 or 15 bodybuilders. Okay. But really, to be truly honest, those numbers are driven at the Olympia event. People do buy those tickets to watch I hate to say it, they come to watch the freak show. And God bless men's bodybuilding for that. But the good news is there has been raises in the Bikini numbers. And I think this is just my opinion, and I will always, and I know Sandy's the same way as me, I will always fight for this to get more. And I always think of that. I go, first off, like when we talk about money, prize money, remember, prize money is only given by the promoter. Okay, so that's part of our job. So as a promoter, if I can't get good sponsors and I can't sell tickets, then the money has to come from somewhere. So that's, you know, if you don't get the sponsor money, you can't offer even a pro division because you know, we have to be sanctioned by the organization. I mean, these are things that a lot of people don't know. And they just automatically think that, once again, money is just thrown around. But no, it's all a business, and it's all definitely, you know, put into boxes that what is the max returns. And that portion, I go, everybody has supporters at different. I mean, there's people who, I mean, look at Chris Bumstead.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, I don't discredit at all that men draw so much attention, especially someone like Chris Bumstead. And I think it's a really amazing thing though, because we're receiving in other ways too. And I think that women have a lot of, especially in the bikini division, there's a lot of marketability in an unfortunate way and a fortunate way. Unfortunately, because it can sometimes drive that identity of needing to look a certain way and be a certain way. And this is another reason why I think these conversations are important, is because.
But what I wanted to interject into that too, I go, I'm also a firm, and we've talked about this, I'm a firm believer in more people being involved. Yeah. So to me, growth in the sport, I was fortunate enough because I really got involved in this sport in the mid to late 80s. And that is when like everything on TV was geared toward gyms and physical culture. You had Richard Simmons, you had Joni Graydon, you had Jane Fonda. Everybody had an exercise thing they were trying to sell on TV. There were Buns of Steel. There was 90-minute or 30-minute, 6-minute abs. I mean, there were all kinds of stuff. But I go, the greatest part was it got Richard Simmons cracked me up because the guy by no means should have been any type of health guru.
I did a biography report on him when I was in like middle school or elementary school. And I was like, I'm going to do it on Richard Simmons. I was like, this is an interesting character.
But I go, here's the thing though. He got people maybe who would never have exercised at all. He got him up, he got him dancing, he got him moving, and to me, I go, okay, it's very hard to step on a bodybuilding stage. But for a lot of people, when we talk about world populations and numbers, I go, just to get up and get moving is so important. So for me, usually it happens in steps. People start small. They go, oh, I started exercising. I joined a gym. I really like it. And then the next thing you know, they get a bug to compete.
Uh-huh.
And that is where a show like our all-girl show, the Girl Power show that Shannon and I do together, that one is important because you get a lot of athletes that never would have competed. They're maybe a little shy, but they go, okay, you know what? I have an atmosphere and then all of a sudden they really catch the bug and they just start competing more and more and more. But going back to where I was at, I go, I really want more people to compete and more people to experience the benefits of what the world of bodybuilding can do. And it is bodybuilding. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if you say, oh, bikini, or you say men's open bodybuilding at the Olympia. Everybody's a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as saying, oh, we might say sometimes, well, you're a bikini athlete. No, you're just an athlete. And I'm going to tell you what, I've been around Ashley Kaltwasser. I've been around Laura Lee. I've been around Brittany Hamilton. I've seen people do amazing things that I just go, it's an athlete. I go, that's a freaking hardcore athlete that has like amazing, amazing talents. And I look at it and I go, now, not everybody has that, but everybody can get involved. Everybody can go walk on a treadmill. Everybody can dance. I mean, you might not be good at it, but you can dance. So I look at things a little differently, and I always want to grow the organization, not so much as I don't want it to be just thought of as we're standing on a stage under some bright lights, and I want it to be more for people. Exactly. And I know it can happen. I know we can get more people involved. But now let's go back a step further. So we had talked about mostly bikini, we do. And that's why there's a couple different ways I look at this. Once again, the business side of me takes over and I look at things and I go, okay, when I do my shows, and I've had guy bodybuilders call me out on this and frickin' ream me a new asshole. You never put guys in your ads. You only talk about the girls. And I said, well, I'm gonna tell you why. And I'm gonna show you statistics why. Huh. When I put this on social media, the girls like it, they share it, it grows. When I work with you guys, you don't.
It's a competition to the men. To the men, it's like, I'm going to watch from a distance, kind of see what's up, what's happening. And I feel like women are in it and they're like, this is community. It's some.
No, you know what though? I think women are just as competitive, and I think they handle it better. Guys are a little more territorial when it comes to secretive, competitive. But here's the other part of that though. I go, you want me to market to you, but I'd be marketing to dead air. So I said, from a business standpoint, what do you want from me? Well, you don't ever talk about the guys. I said, because you don't share anything. You don't promote the show. The only way I can be successful as a promoter is by having people talk about the show. You come to the show, you have a great experience. That's my goal. I go, and you tell your friends and you share it online. You share it, amongst you're in the gym when you're talking to people. And one of the best compliments I get is when I have friends around the country who are like, we were at a posing seminar, I asked a girl what she's doing, and she says she's coming all the way to Florida to do Klash. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Yeah. But I go, part of that is I know what I really want to see for the athletes, because I want that. I would talk about the word experience a lot. I want your experience, whether it's your first time on stage or it's the pro show or the winner's going to the Olympia. I want that, or whether I'm judging. I go, if I'm at a judge's table, I want your experience to be great. I don't want to hear, what I hate hearing is when we as an organization sometimes fail, and you could say that's controversial, but I go, you spend a long day at the table. Sometimes you just don't want to give critiques. Sometimes but you know what? What are we there for? We're there to make people's lives better. Mm-hmm. Those, as we always say, you all, as we point to the stage, are our customers, our clients. This organization without the athletes, there's nothing. Mm-hmm. So you have to have the athletes, and you've got to give them a good place to compete. So once again, I just see it as I know bikini is the largest number, and my show, I can tell you this much. I go, the numbers not just at my shows, but almost every show. I go, we'll back that up. But overall, when you look at it, you go, here's why it's so important for a promoter. Bikini girl might do 3 classes in a show, whereas maybe the male bodybuilder is only going to do 1 class. Now, as a promoter, that's important. For the organization might look at us and go, yeah, but it's 52% female, 48% men, or 50-50, or whatever the number is, this year. But that's just based upon buying the cards, the membership cards. I look at it from a business standpoint as a promoter, but also everybody loves when you come to a show. To be honest, that crowd is most filled because of the bikini girls at the local amateur level, because they're bringing their spouses, their children, their mom and dad, their friends. It's a different environment, and to me, it's very easy. And don't get me wrong, I love all our athletes. Our athletes are great. Anyone who gets on that stage to me is a rock star. I don't care if you're not going to win or not. I don't care. I go because I know what it's like, and I go, anyone who's ever stood on that stage knows how hard it is to get there. So that is the first step in being successful, is you made it there. I go, now take that and apply that to everything else. But back to where we were. I know I sidebar, as always, I sidebar, and you're going to end up having like a 3-hour thing. You have to split this up into multiple.
I have so many thoughts because you have taken us on a journey. Do you mind if I summarize?
No, go ahead. Keep talking. I love it. Right.
So we got to hear a little bit about you and your start, and we heard about someone in the gym who was a top competitor, Mr. Universe, which, by the way, when I was 15, maybe, I was in the gym working out, see this super buff trainer, and I wanted to be a trainer now at this point. It was around like not 15, but I was getting into fitness more. I was an avid volleyball player, and I was like, how much better can I be? But anyway, I eventually fell in love with fitness, want to train. And I would watch this guy, and he would come up to me, and he was so nice. And then at the time, I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. Mr. Universe, what? And he's like, yeah, I've won 2 times. I'm 2 times Mr. Universe. And I'm like, that meant nothing to me then. But now I'm like, oh, snap. And he was so nice, down to earth. He uplifted me as a person. He encouraged me. He said, you train hard. I want to help you more. And he encouraged me to consider continuing this. And not that I wouldn't have, but it was just, I think there's people that get planted in your life and in these experiences that do make an impact. And then you went on to talk about taking opportunities when they're presented to you. This is a really, really beautiful point, because there have been times I have missed an opportunity before. There was one on a silver platter, and I was like, yeah, I really want to do it, but, and I missed it. And I have not missed an opportunity since then. And actually, it was from Camille, believe it or not. Years ago, she's like, I want you to come to one of my events in California. And she's like, I want you to come and have a booth and do this and have a microphone and all that. And I didn't do it. I wanted to so bad, and I didn't make it happen. And I swore after that, because I had such FOMO, swore after that I'm never missing another opportunity. And I said yes to every single thing after that. And now look how far I've come. Sometimes missing an opportunity is good, because it teaches you a damn good lesson.
Teaches you not to miss opportunities.
And she probably has no idea that I feel that way.
We'll tell her when we see her at the seminar. But you know what's funny is the old statement, opportunity knocks but once. If I would not have taken the chance when Trey said, come back and judge, and after that, take a shot at this promoting it, each time that opportunity was presented, I said, the actual words I used were, fuck it. It's exactly what I said. I said, I'll do it. I don't have any fear. That's one thing in life that bodybuilding also has taught me, and doing the competitive powerlifting world and the whole nine-yard ball of wax. I go, fear it should not be in your brain pan, because you cannot get under a 700-pound bar and walk it out if you fear it, you're never going to do it. If you look at 600 pounds on the ground and you go, I'm going to deadlift that, and in your mind you can't do it, it ain't coming off the ground. So nothing we do should ever be based in fear. And I that is a dual-edged sword, because I had this conversation with an athlete recently about FOMO. And I said, it's not always a good thing. And I think you know where I'm going with this. And here's why. There are other things in life that, you know, for instance, this particular athlete, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss this. And I went, yeah, but you're going to be with your mom for a special occasion for something very important. That needs to take precedence. You're not going to get that opportunity again. There's going to be shit. There's going to be an event every weekend until the end of the year that you can take part in. And I know this is important of what you're going to miss, but it's also going to be weigh on your mind more if you miss this time with your family. So there are things where I tell people, try not to have FOMO, because everything you do should be thought through and thoughtfully, you know, put thought into what you do. It's no different than when you give a gift. I tell people all the time, the best gifts in the world are the ones where someone puts thought into the gift. It's not the money they spent. It's not the, you know, and it could be something really expensive. It could be something that cost a nickel. It's the thought that goes behind a gift, or it could cost nothing. It could be a handwritten card. It could be whatever. I go, life is short. Let your emotions, don't cover this in stone. Be who you are, but also think through things. Think through what's really needed in your life. Sometimes what you think you need, you don't. And sometimes what you think you don't need, you do. And it's amazing to watch people when you talk about missing opportunities or losing a chance at something that could be really great for them, because they just don't think the timing's right. They go, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do that. I go, it might just be you need to stop worrying about thinking you know the answers and run with what your heart and your brain tell you. You know, when you think it through and your heart and your brain agree, you're usually pretty right. Usually it's not wrong. If one goes one way and one goes the other, you got a 50-50 chance that you're wrong. But when they're both telling you the same thing, don't let your brain talk you out of something that your heart really wants, and vice versa. If you have but one chance through this in life. And I know I might be waxing a little philosophical here, but I go, the subject of FOMO, I've seen too many people think they're going to have FOMO and then they get sick or make themselves physically ill because they stretch their capabilities out too far. And I've seen that in the sport, in this world. I've seen that in the construction world. We've all worked with that guy who was the workaholic. And it was like, man, go home, enjoy the holiday, spend time with your family. No, we got to get this done. We got to get this done. And here's a little personal. You guys want to know more about me? I'll give you a little more about me. My brother is 4 years older than me. He was a type A workaholic his entire life. At 44 years old, he's in his office and he has a massive stroke. He's partially disabled. He cannot work ever again. He can't drive a car. He's lost without work. He never has been able to really, truly recover, but he worked himself so hard, 90-hour weeks, traveling all over, doing those things, trying to raise a family, I go, sooner or later, you realize your body is not mortal. Or not immortal. It is mortal. It will break down. So don't ever fear like, oh my God, I'm gonna miss this bodybuilding show. It's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It's something that you want to do. And sometimes you will find that, okay, I'm going to make this happen because this one is really important. But there are other things on the other side of it. Like I said, this scenario I was running into, I'm like, go spend time with your family. Go do those things, because you're only going to get one chance. And you could say to me, oh, but no, I'm very driven. I think you all know this out there. And I think you know this, Celeste. I'm very driven in what I do. I'm very goal oriented. I know what I want. And I usually always find ways to work and make it happen. And I will always do that my entire life. But there's certain things where we have to put the brakes on.
Yeah.
And this is for you, especially because I know how you are, because I know you very well. And I know you work a lot and you're very good at what you do. But make sure you take that time sometimes to take that break and realize I shouldn't have FOMO. It's natural. It's a natural occurring feeling, but don't let that beat you down. Don't let that hold you back from things that you also want to do as well. You know, you want to take that vacation, you want to, you know, spend time with your family, do those things. Very important. But anyways, I kind of sidebarred there again, as always, as I always do. But I find that there's a balance in life. There's that mental health aspect that you're going to talk about at the seminar is it's so important. What we do should drive us and make our lives better, not make this life worse. So
Exactly.
always keep that in mind. Anyways, let's talk about something a little lighter. That was heavy, man.
Lighter. I don't do that. I like to go deeper than surface level.
Okay, all right, I got you. All right, give me some. Let's spitball into something else, because we've been rolling through some of the things that, you know, I know you're going to talk about at the women's seminar. You're going to meet all these great, wonderful people, new people who aren't as familiar in the industry. You're going to make a lot of friends that weekend. It's a very good environment, and once again, I know we kind of went in a big arc from, how do I say this? We went from the women's seminar, we started going through personal things, we started going through some of the business aspects.
Which I appreciated that, because I think that's helpful for listeners as well. We can get so wrapped up as competitors and as athletes in that journey that we forget about other aspects of life, or we forget what's happening behind the scenes. And it's nice to know that too, because while knowledge isn't immunity, I do think knowledge supports understanding. And when you have an education on what is it you're really working towards and how important is that to you. And I really appreciated your point about you're not missing out, and it's important to take that time away, and your anecdote about your brother as well, because I've been there, done that. I lost my mom, and I remember thinking that nothing really mattered anymore. And yet bodybuilding, I remember thinking, this is so stupid. Like, I just lost the most important person in my life, and I'm about to go to the gym. You know, like that's what it's on. But I told myself, I'm like, there was a version of you that existed in this world while she was alive that believed this was a worthy endeavor to pursue. So just because you don't feel that way now doesn't mean that version of you doesn't still exist. And the bodybuilding is the thing that I kept doing in my business, and I just kept going and going. And it kept me alive in it. It kept that dream alive, and it allowed me to keep going, and it changed something. Now I'm not so fixated on my next competition date. I'm not so fixated on the next show I'm going to step on stage. Now, it's always in the back of my mind. I'm working every single day to be better and better and better and better, and doing that for me, doing that for the people in my life. However, my dad got us a trip to Austria in the summer. And I was like, oh, I'm definitely not competing until the fall or even winter now. And of course, I'm aiming for finally doing that Klash show that I won, by the way.
No, oh yeah, that don't worry about it. We got that covered. But
No,
what's so funny?
What were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say, see, I'd go to Austria, and the problem there is I would drink way too much beer, and I love it there still. You know, one of the things I really want to do, I want to do the whole Christmas in Europe thing, where you go from, like, you know, different places in Germany down to Austria and Switzerland, and do all the lights in the marketplaces and all that kind of stuff. So that's on my list of things. And I go, when I go to the Czech Republic, I always laugh, and I tell people, I go, remember one thing: you can walk into a bar in the Czech Republic. If you order water, it's more expensive than a beer. Do you think about that for a few minutes? Just want to tell you that it's always fun to do these things, but enjoy that vacation. And like you said, we have as Sandy always says, we have a contest every weekend. So
sometimes multiple contests in one weekend.
Welcome to the state of Florida. You know, that's one of the things we you know, really the state of Florida is 3 states in one. For those out there that don't understand, you know, or are new to the industry, or, you know, new to Florida, I go, you really have 3 different states in one. So there could be weekends where you have a show in the northern district or the north part of Florida, and it might be 4 or 5 hours away, and you'll have a show going on in West Palm Beach. It happens all the time. And, you know, I go, the state supports it. It does well. But I go, there are shows. There are always shows. And once again, I'll throw a plug out to my Florida family down here, the NPC Florida website. Go check it out. It's just getting built up this year, you know, as we're rolling into 2024. In the Carolinas, same thing, because obviously I have 2 shows up in the Carolinas I'll be heading into this year. We're bringing the Border Clash back into Aiken, South Carolina, which is exciting for me because that's where it all began. And this is the 10th anniversary. So we'll get to all that. I know we're
No, let's talk about it now. We're talking about it now. 10 years of Clash.
10 years of Clash shows, and it's grown from 1 show into this year. There's 6 plus the title sponsorship of the Pro Classic or Bikini Pro Classic at the Junior National. So, and I'll give you a little teaser out there. I'm not done yet. So we'll just leave it at that. Years and years. I'm not ready to retire. I thought I was ready to retire. I thought I was ready to do a lot of things. I'm not done.
You just needed a little reset.
Oh, life is a reset. But no, I am now with, I'm working with some of the best people in the world. I have a great group of people that are at the shows that work. I mean, Shannon Day is my business partner in the Florida shows. And I just enjoy it so much. We have such a good time. I've never in my entire life, I've never been able to have partners. Shannon is, and she said the same thing. We're the first time we've been able to have partners together without either getting on each other's nerves or disagreeing on everything. It's just so easy with her, and it's so fun, and we have such a good time. And I go, there's so much knowledge in her mind, and she's been around for, just like me. I always tell people that I keep me around long enough because I've been around so long that, I mean, Lee Haney gave me my first job in this sport, for crying out loud, and that was in 1989. So I go, that was a long time ago.
You're like a floppy disk for the industry.
I am. I always go, I'm kind of a bunch of worthless knowledge in my head. That's kind of like all it is. But I go, I've grown up in this sport. I started off as a teenager, and it's always been important. And the people in the sport have always been important. So I enjoy it. I tell people, I said, I met J.M. Mannion when I was 18 years old, and I've known him ever since. I go, it's just a wonderful thing to have those kind of long-term, memories with people where, you might not see each other. And now we see each other all the time because we're, I'm back, this is what I do for my quote unquote retirement living. But it's fun to be involved in it. It's fun to do the things we do. And so we're 10 years. So I'm like, okay, we got to pull out all the stops. So we got these 6 shows this year. And the first one we kick off is on March 30th, which is the Clash Championships. And the title sponsor is Body Bio. There's a shout out to Kim Odo out there, who has been, once again, a friend for so long. And I remember before there were mega trainers, there was no such thing, especially as the women were progressing. When we started off with with a few categories, you had fitness and figure, even pre-bikini. I go, and then bikini came along, and these teams, it was like nothing had existed like this before. So you really had Kim Odo out west. You had Mike Davies up in Ohio. You had Trey Bennett in the Carolinas, because Trey was actually a trainer back then. And if you don't know who Trey's wife is, look up Shannon Metro sometime. An Olympian at the highest level. I go, and Trey and I always go, well, you got to carry your bag, so you had that going for you, which was good. But so, and then of course you had Shannon, when she started her bombshell things down here in Florida, that really were the teams. And I remember when those first started, I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand. That's what you have a training partner for. You just ask your training partner, what do I need to do? And they tell you, hey, diet this, do this, you lift a little more of this, blah, blah, blah. But these guys kind of created a whole new environment. And I've known Kim for a long time. He's always supported the Clash series shows. And I want to give out a shout out to a few sponsors, and I hope this doesn't take up too much time, but I go between Jamie D. Bernard and Greg at Fit Body Fusion, Paul Revelia at Pro Physiques, Damien at the Pros out west back in Arizona with Whitney. Him and Whitney they still run that company. I know that they've got so many things going on with their gym and everything else. I never know. So when I see Whitney, I'm going to be like, I don't know who you're training right now, but she's so busy. And another person who, one of my dearest people in this sport, because she is genuine. I mean, you have James at Team Atlas. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And the lists are, and I know I'm going to forget CJ at CJ's Elite. I go, I've known CJ for 25 years. Always supported me, always, making sure these shows are funded to, that's really where the sponsor money comes from. It pays to, put the show in action, and that's what we have to do to make these things work. But it's the sponsors have driven it. So that first show, Kim is the Body Bio is the title sponsor. It's March 30th. It's the Avanti Palm. So the same place we're going to be for the women's seminar. All 4 Florida shows that Shannon and I do are at that location. We do them there for ease of simplicity. It's easy for the athletes to stay. It's free parking. The room rates are great. The microwave and fridge in each room. It's as simple and possible as can be. Room rates have become crazy in Florida. If you guys, once again, we'll jump to the business side here for a second. If you're not familiar with, I used to do shows at the Hyatt Regency Orlando. First off, we can't even get a spot there because the program's not big enough. Second thing was, even if they could get us in, the room rates were $300 a night. Then you got to pay for parking, and you got to pay a resort fee, and there's extra. Okay, so don't get me wrong, resort or a place that is top of the line. I mean, like a 5-star hotel. It's just comfortable. It's pretty. It's all the other things. When I talk to athletes, I go, what would you rather have? And they're like, well, my budget. And I get it. The more people I talk to, I go, your budget only allows you to do so much. And what do you do in that room? You want to cook your food. You want to pose in a mirror, and you want to nap. And you want to take a shower. You want to take a shower when you're done so you can go out and have fun with your family. Exactly. So, the thing about Avanti Palms, for those who haven't been there and you come for the women's seminar, or those who come for the shows this year, you could actually include it in your stay. You could take the shuttle they'll drop you off at the front gate of Universal. You're 1 mile from Universal. You're within all the restaurant, on International Drive, but the rooms are between $89 and $99 a night. Yeah. And it's a clean hotel. It's simple. It's easy. There's restaurants, there's bars, there's everything else in there. I go, but most importantly, you got that microwave and fridge in that room. You got a good bed to sleep in.
The most important. The worst is when you're going to, I'll go for it.
Free. I was just going to say free parking. I go, that one to me is, I go, when you pay $30 to park, it just kind of rubs you the right, especially if you're coming to watch somebody.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. And the spectator has to pay $30. I'm like, ugh. But so we love what we do. And that first one is in March. So then we roll, and that is a national qualifier, men and women. And then, of course, a pro bikini show with the Olympia qualification. Plus, we still do masters. We're going to do a 40 and 50 at all the pro bikini shows this year. There is prize money involved for all of them, but there still is no entry fee. I'm going to hold on to that until the day I die. I can't do it to my pros, and that's my personal choice. It's my personal choice. It has nothing to do with me saying good or bad about anyone else. That is what I want to do. So I feel that they have earned that. And they, once again, sponsor money helps pay that prize money. So we want to make sure that we take care of our athletes the best we can. And the way we feel is the best we can as a promoter. And that's the way I feel. One of the ways for our pros that I feel I can help them. Now, the next show after that is April 27th. And that, again, is at the Avanti Palms. And that's our all women's weekend, Girl Power. Sandy Williamson will be the head judge at the show on March 30th. Sandy will be the head judge again at Girl Power on April 27th. Once again, almost in a similar setup as the first one, but no men. So you'll have the women's divisions. You'll have the pro bikini divisions. Last year we had 140 registered. We had a few that didn't show up. So we ended up having about 130 athletes cross the stage. For an all-women show, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll continue on that growth path this year. We know it's a fun show. We do a lot of fun things at that one, including we have champagne backstage with special glasses. We do we kind of go above and beyond at that one. And, Shannon will say, like, what do you think about this? And I'll go, I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great idea. Spend a little more money. Let them know we really, really care. Because I do believe that the women really spearhead my shows, and Shannon knows the same thing. So we like I said, we agree on the business plan. We do what we do. So that one is April 27th. Next one after that is May 25th. Mo Newman will be the head judge at that one. That one is the Southern USA. Once again, men's and women's national qualifier. Does have a pro bikini show as well. Same setup, open Olympia qualifier, 40, 50-year-old pros or a masters pro. the great thing about that show that we found last year is we had more and more men that wanted to do that show because of the timing and setup for the other shows that they wanted to do afterwards for national shows. So we see that one growing as well this year. And I think we had a good time last year. And our winner last year, a guy named his first name was Nick, and it just dropped my mind for a second. It was just massive. I was like, wow. But we had such, and one of the things, I know we could bring this up, and then I will sound like I'm tooting my own horn. We've had almost 500 athletes in the last 9 years that have done the Klash show and then went to a national show and turned pro, that, and got their pro cards. So I keep track of all that stuff. And we had a couple really good ones this year. At the last show of the year, the girl who won the overall in bikini 3 days later gets the overall at the amateur Olympia. We had another one of our Klash girls just won the overall at the nationals. So I go, it's not, I don't want people to think that the competition's too hard. I just want you to realize you're going to see some amazing athletes, and there's something for everybody, from that first time person all the way up through that professional who's going to the Olympia. There's going to be something for everybody. So the May show is May 25th. Then we go up to Aiken, South Carolina on June 29th. And well, actually, let me take that back. June 22nd, before we do that, we have the pro component, pro bikini show at the Junior Nationals. It's the first time we've done this in the United States. We do it around the world at other shows.
Wow.
This will be a first time for that. Klash Girl is the title sponsor, and we're going to treat it and spoil the hell out of our pro athletes at that show. Because the cool part is you could get your pro card on Friday and then compete on the pro stage on Saturday, technically go to the Olympia. So it's got a lot of fun component to it. And we know there's going to be a lot of great girls who do that show as well. But then the following week, I go to Aiken, South Carolina. We bring the Border Klash back. Sandy is the head judge. She's coming in for that one because she was one of my first judges that I ever brought in to do the Border Klash. And that's just an NPC show, but it is men and women. We're excited about that because we always loved our time at Aiken. The city of Aiken loves having us there. They love supporting us. So they got behind us coming back, because we left during COVID and never went back there. So now we're going back. Then we skip to August 24th in Charleston, South Carolina. We do the World Klash. And last but not least, and that one Mo Newman is going to head judge as well. And then last but not least is the All South. And this year we're switching gears a little bit at the All South. So it's always our biggest Klash NPC show because of timing, because you get people getting ready for the nationals. But we're doing women's physique as our pro division, the reason we're doing that is we have a special, I don't want to call him a sponsor. He's just a friend, and everybody knows him, Bulletproof Sportswear, Ken Richardson. And Ken's wife, Amy, was a women's physique pro, and she passed away during COVID in the hospital with respiratory issues. And long story short, everybody loved Amy, and he came to me and said, what if we did it? And I said, let's do it. Let's do it. So everybody's kind of gotten behind this all the way up to Sarah Vallejas has given us her, blessings and approvals. And we're really looking forward to that one. It'll be something a little different for the Klash, but something that I'm really excited about. But all that being said, we got a big full schedule. So those are 7 shows. I babbled on long enough. Let's talk about something about the Klash that you want to know, because you're going to be involved this year as well, aren't you?
Yeah, that's the plan.
That is the plan.
Yeah,
that is the plan.
Excited. So, first of all, that is an awesome lineup of shows, and I love that you highlighted some of the sponsors as well. And it's funny, like most of those people have also been on the podcast, which is so cool. And I love how you highlighted that the bodybuilding industry has come so far with teams and coaches and just the expansion. And now we're talking about shows, and you've expanded so much, and you're finding all these ways to continue to contribute to the athletes and give them an experience. That's the key word, that they're going to want to come back and they want to share it with others. And I think there's some people who only want to compete as a bucket list. And so sometimes I think what makes the difference from competing for a bucket list and then ending up on the Olympia stage years later is the experience of the show. And I think that speaks to your earlier point about how important it is to essentially like lead in such a way that makes people excited about competing.
Well, and one of the things, and I know you know this, and I think most of well, I shouldn't say most of, maybe some people know they don't. We always do the free photo packages. And to me, that's the number one gift I can give back to an athlete. And I always say this, I go, no matter where you go in life, those photos are priceless. Because to get to that shape and get on that stage, it means everything to you as a person. But you've heard me say this because I told you this story. I'll tell athletes, someday you're going to be an 80-year-old grandma and you're going to have your grandchild on your lap and you're going to open that scrapbook, whatever it is, phone, whatever you got in front of you, pad, and you're going to go, look how hot grandma was. And I always tell people, I go, you have one body that you get to live with and try to, you honor that the best you can. I go, and it's just fun for me to look at, progression. And I tell people, you get the photos for free, you pay enough money, let me at least give you that gift back. I give them the athletes the video playback. I try to make it, those are things that I feel are important more than, and then of course I do the paid entries to the national shows, but I go, it's those type of things.
You say that casually, but that's a big deal.
Well, it is, but also at the same time, I go, the coolest thing is that everybody in the show gets the free photos. Every person who enters gets the video. We do free, full-size supplements, not samples, not, we get supplement companies to give us a full-size product for the athletes to try. We try to go above and beyond because I go, not everybody's going to win. And once again, we're talking about experiences. The best thing you can do as a promoter or in any business, let me rewind for a second. The best thing you can do as a promoter is to make everybody feel they had a great experience. That word experience again. So if you had a great experience, you got all these gifts, you had all this fun, you met great people, you loved it, okay, yeah, we're all going to be upset if we don't win. That's human nature. We're competitive. But all those other things happen. So I sit there and go, that's part of that whole experience that you don't forget. So in any business, and this is where I was going with this, in any business, you want your customers, your clients, you want everyone to have great experiences. That's what they remember. They don't think about anything else other than the experience. Because 20 years from now, you'll probably have moved 3, 4 times, 2 times, whatever it is. Trophies get damaged, kids knock them over, people don't want them done display in their house. Maybe they put them in an attic somewhere, but you never forget the experience you had. You never forget how you felt that day. If you felt awful, that's what you're going to remember. If you feel good and you feel wanted and welcomed and appreciated, you're going to have a great experience. You feel that the judges pay attention to you. You feel that you had time on stage. I try to set up shows a little differently than others. And once again, this is just my job. It's how I see it. I go, I want the focus to be completely and solely on those athletes. I go, I have a pro division. Those are my built-in guest posers. I don't bring in extra guest posers. I don't not want everyone to pose at prejudging and finals. I go, now for our bodybuilding, for classic, and for women's physique, I always prefer they pose at night to their music. And I always make that happen at every show. Because to me, I go, that's important to them. When you pick your song, you want a song that is you, that's your individual. I go, during the day, that part, those divisions, we can judge those. But I go, bikini, men's physique, I go, wellness. You're going to present in the morning, you're going to present at night. And if you've been to my shows, you know that we're still done. We start at 4 and we're still wrapped by 7:30. I go, you got time to go out and spend that and celebrate with your family. We run it efficiently and we try to make sure that everybody appreciates it, because the last thing you want to do is, I remember years ago, we'd be stuck in a venue till 2 a.m. waiting to get on stage. I'm like, oh, no, nobody likes that. So as a promoter, I always tell people, I've watched for 30 years what works and what doesn't, what I like and what I don't like. And I think I'm always, after every show, first thing I do is talk to the trainers, especially the ones that are bringing their teams with them. What did you like? What didn't you like? What about this? What about, be honest? Tell me what you want to see that I can make better. And I love that, because I go, it's not hurting me. It's not hurting my feelings. It's making me have a better product. Yeah. And that better product brings more athletes, and those athletes have a good time. And here goes the cycle again. And we start that spin where The experience is everything. So the national entry is just, that's a whole, that to me is just a separate little piece of the pie that I go, okay, you're an exceptional athlete. You got this far. Let's see your next step. Because I know it's expensive. If you're going to go to Dallas to go to the nationals, you got to fly. Let's say you live here in Florida, you got to fly to Dallas. You got to get a hotel. You got your hair, your makeup, your tan, your suit. Least I can do is pay the $400 to get you in the contest. So to me, I go, that's a small give back. And once again, I pay those entries. It's so funny. Someone came to me the one time and said, well, it's just because you have a relationship with, say, Sandy or Trey at the Junior USA. I go, you do realize I pay it, right? It's not, they don't give me a freebie there. I go, and I don't want them to. I go, they're in business just like everyone else. So that's part of, what we do. I want to make sure our athletes are taken care of. But no, I like to make sure, like I said, I go that everybody has a good experience, starting from the moment you walk through the door at check-ins. Like, if you've ever been to our check-ins, I pride myself on the fact I used to time it. And the best we ever did was we had never had a longer than a 2-minute wait through the whole thing. Like, they were in the room and out of the room in 2 minutes. But normally our time is about 5 to 7 minutes of the time you walk into the room, get heighted, go get your number, talk to the guys, make sure they clarify all your divisions. And you talk to the photographers, get your gifts, get your photos. Dan Ray, Phil from PCS. I go, James. I have a great crew of photographers that are, videographers that are just taking care of things. And we tried to make it like a well-tuned machine. And I hope that people appreciate that, because I go, it takes a lot of work. And I go, I have some of the coolest people that work, from Jess Delias to Brittany Hamilton. I get some really cool people to come and work the shows. I go, if you met our expediters in Florida, from Bill Schrader, the long-haired guy in the ponytail, Richie Alvarez, who's always on stage, Ty and Joanna Pope, the husband and wife out of Orlando. We have some amazing people that always make everyone feel like family. And that is key to what we do. And it really is. And I go, I try not to, no matter what, you always, as a promoter, you're always going to have days where you're like, oh my God, there's a million problems going on. I always step back and I go, remember one thing, we're at a bodybuilding show. This is great. I go, this ain't like I'm on a roof in Florida at 110 degrees putting tar down. I'm not putting a roof on. And, I look at it and I go, we're blessed, and we should be very thankful that we're healthy and we're enjoying the moments, and we're around a bunch of people that are like-minded. And it is, to me, it's just a good experience altogether. And I love promoting. And like I said, this is the 10th year, but not by far, not the last. And you never know what could happen in 2025. So
that's awesome. I have some thoughts, a lot of questions and thoughts swirling through my head. One thing
ask away, because I've been talking so much.
I will. So first I'll say that we were talking about how I'll be involved. And one of the things that I remembered about the times we've connected is that experience is so important to you. And from my perspective, running this podcast, just now starting a podcast studio in the next room over right here at my house to give more of it's going to be called the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast experience, tongue twister, but I never do things the short way. So
wait. Is that the room with the posters on the wall?
It is.
Is that okay? Those are pretty cool posters, by the way. Those are one-on-one. Those are like as limited as can be. There's only one of them.
Well, they're in good hands. I can promise you that. And what I was so excited that I won that, because I was like, I'm not the only one who will enjoy it. I get to share this with everyone, because it's going to be in the studio, and everyone who comes to the house is going to get to see them.
And it's so funny, because what I did was I took the names and I just put them on a spreadsheet. And then I closed my eyes and I took the mouse and I just spun it like down like that. And it landed on your name. And I go, no one's going to believe me. So
I know. I was like, should I even this? And I was like, I'm sorry. I want it so bad for the studio.
I thought it was great. I go, lots of people. It was so nice of people to share it and like it. And, we don't realize how important social media, and I know they're going to talk about it at the women's seminar, how important social media is to spreading the word about careers and good things. But I know they're going to talk about it because I know Laura Lee's doing that section. I believe Laura Lee's doing that section, or Ashley. I can't remember who's doing it, but anyway, remember one thing that we always talk about too. I go, social media is just that. It's another tool. It's not the be all to end all. But I go, it is nice if you look at my social media, I tell people, I go, I use it as a marketing, sales driven process. And a lot of people say to me, oh, I don't, it's boring. It's the same. I go, I understand that. I go, if you really, I always tell people, when you really want to talk to me, just text me or call me. I really want to tell people, social media is just that. And it's another piece of your life, but not your whole life. So try to utilize it for good, for your business, for your, when you want to share things with people, family, friends, but don't necessarily feel insecure because you might see somebody else doing something on social media that you're not doing, or you're not there where they are, or you're not, be you. Always be you. There's only one of you. So no matter who you are out there, there's only one of you. But like I said, I'm more of a text type person. So when people really have questions, I get a lot of text, a lot of emails, and a lot of phone calls. And I try to answer stuff that way. Social media for me is kind of it's a necessary evil per se. I really do utilize it for advertising. That's kind of my thing. So
I always say I probably wouldn't be on social media if it wasn't for my business. But I do think it's a beautiful place. Like I said earlier, you connect with all these people. But back to the experience. Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, I was just going to say, the key word you used there is, it's a beautiful place, and it can be, as long as it's really how you view things in life altogether. And that's a whole nother philosophical. We'll have to do that on like a third episode of this podcast, because that's how you view things often spins how you see reality and how you see your day and how you feel. And, the worst place we can get trapped sometimes is between our own ears. But let's put the pin in that one, and we'll come back to that sometime for a third podcast.
Yes. Well, no, because people have to share this one, and you won't be coming back on unless people share it, right?
Yeah, we got to get to 1 million shares. That's I'll always come back on whenever you need. The problem is most people get sick of hearing me, and then you'll get diminishing returns.
I got incredible feedback from our last one, so I highly doubt that. But let me just say, so part of my passion is giving an experience, is highlighting athletes beyond what they can accomplish on stage. And I see you do that too. We share this passion for empowering athletes. And so when I moved to South Carolina, I was like, Joe, what do you think about me doing some stuff with Klash, maybe like a road to Klash, maybe doing like interviews as athletes come off stage? Because I think something in my mind, I see it like, as an amateur athlete who's been in this since 2015, I'm grinding every day. I'm also natural, not that that's going to make a difference to everybody listening, but to me, that's something I'm prideful about, I guess you could say, because I'm just working really hard every day. But I see myself and I'm like, no matter what happens in my journey as an athlete, I'll know I'll be proud of myself because I love this. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think other athletes probably feel the same way. Nothing is guaranteed, right? You can't guarantee a win. You can't guarantee a title.
No.
But
do you remember what my answer was when you pitched the idea to me?
I think, well, usually you just tell me whatever I want.
No. Do you remember what I said?
No.
It's perfect. Let's do it. Let's do it. It wasn't even. There was no hesitation whatsoever.
It was just yeah. Let's go. You said you're alluding to some special things in 2025. In my mind, I'm like thinking of all these things that could potentially happen, but something I've always wondered about is, will there be new national shows or more national shows added to the calendar? Is this something that is expanding? Is this something you're going to ever promote?
I don't foresee any new national shows being added to the calendar currently. As we've grown around the world, they've added international shows, like the Amateur Olympia. Plus, we still have the Amateur Olympia here in the States. We have the Masters USA, Masters National. We have the Universe. I think right where they're at right now is kind of where that's going to stay. You know, the opportunities for promoting national shows, that's just I that's made at the top. That's not something that you know, that's way above my pay grades. I just look at it and go, my job is to always prepare the athletes where I'm at right now. And no, I'm looking at just other expansions in the Clash series. So
Hmm.
I don't know where some of these will be. So I can't give that much information out, but there are some hopeful opportunities that are going to pop up by 2025 that we're going to be ready to take the chance on. Like I said, I have a great group of people that I work with. And we're already ready to rock and roll for this year. I go, there's very few things that I'm not already done. I mean, that aren't already done. For the most part, we're ready to roll right now. So you know, now it's the exciting part. Like the it's like building a building. You start with the footers and you work your way up. And you know, the we're already way out of the ground and we've gone vertical. We've dried the building in and we're ready to roll. So I go, this is the fun stuff for me, because now it's like, okay, now it's getting people trained up and on your crew, you know, for the crews to know what to do. And this, you know, it's a lot of work, and don't let anyone fool you. And if they say it's not, they're full of crap. But like I said, this is my retirement fund. So hey, some people like to paint. What am I supposed to say? So this is fun for me. Now people are gonna be like, wait a minute, he's not sitting in the same spot he was, and he's got glasses on.
Oh.
Weird.
Not only did his phone battery start to die, but his eyesight deteriorated. We've been talking for 5 years.
You have no idea. That's not actually a wrong statement. I mean, that is true. But let's go back to where so when we piece this back together and people go, well, they moved, I'll be like, yeah, we moved. But let's talk about what you're going to do with the Clash. I think that's really important, because when we pitched the idea and we talked about it, like I said, my thought was, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because I do want to bring that portion of the show to people and have it documented for them, and have you talk to people, because I think your understanding of the sport is going to be helpful for a lot of people. And I saw it as a positive, like where it was one of those like, okay, this is something that is definitely going to help spread the word, you know, to athletes about what is your reason for being there? Why are you on stage? What is you know, and there's so many things that you can ask, and just the experiences that'll be documented, that I just go, okay, I can't think of a better person to talk to people than you. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. So I'm gonna let you roll on this one for a second. And
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It's definitely exciting for me because I'll go back to like when I was really little. I used to watch sports with my dad, and he would always turn it off right when they're about to interview the athlete. And I was always like, Dad, go back. I want to listen to that. And it's funny now in my adult life, I'm doing this and I'm like, I've always just had an interest in what was behind the mind of an athlete and a champion, and what was going through even the second place's head, you know, like what's happening in these people's heads. And then when it's judged, or when it's something that is determined by others, let's say, I'm curious about what's going on in the mind.
mm-hmm.
So it excites me. There's one thing. Oh yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say, you know what you can get from the second place person? Those judges suck.
I would be like, really? You got second place. You should be happy.
Yeah.
You know what, though? You said something earlier, which I thought was interesting, because, you know, you said, don't worry, I don't want you thinking the competition's too hard. And something that I love about this sport is you have the opportunity to stand next to the best of the best of the best of the best. If I was going to choose between a show where I'm the only one in my class, or if there's 20 people in the class, I'm going to choose the 20 people.
Well, and that's how I am too. But you'd be surprised that that's not always the case, and it's usually because this is a long conversation to have. Usually, what I found is that a lot of times you'll have a trainer that tries to direct a person to easier show, not because it's better for their client. They're just, and I'm not talking about the good trainers. I'm talking about, we all know that it's no big secret. There's a million trainers in the world.
Mhm.
They're everywhere. I pride myself on getting the good ones together. And I do. They're not all sponsors either. I get a lot of trainers who come and they bring their teams to my shows because they know they're trying to set them up for success into the future. And that's a good trainer. A good trainer isn't worried about, oh my God, if they don't get a medal, they're going to leave me as a trainer because they're going to think I'm no good. No. Your job is to make them better. So for me, I don't want to ever go do a show where, oh, now I'm nationally qualified. There was nobody in your class. You were the only one.
Exactly.
That to me doesn't mean anything. I want to win. I want to be compared against the best. And and as the levels get harder, you should want to be compared against the best. And that's just, how I see it. And I don't say that bad about, like I said, I'm not singling it. We all know we're smart enough to go, okay, that trainer doesn't want them to. I've been told by trainers, your show is too hard, but then their athlete gets qualified and they put them in the national. And I go, what do you do? They're going to be a lot harder at the nationals than it is here.
Sure.
But they buy themselves maybe 6 more months of time. And I'm being brutally honest here. I've seen too many trainers do this that I just go, but once again, I go, just like every business, and I'm not just singling out bodybuilding here. You be careful where you spend your money and where you spend your time and your effort and who you surround yourself with. It's just life. I've gotten my circle very, very small in these last few years. I have gone out on a limb for people sometimes, and it doesn't always work out. But I don't have any regrets about anything. I just go, no, I'm going to take care of those that are really close to me and make sure that I'm happiest in my little bubble. And that's where I'm at with life. And I say the same thing when it comes to business. You can go 20 different places to buy a shirt or to buy, clothing, but you go to the places you really want to go to, that you feel welcomed and, treated well, and that you get the product you want. Mm-hmm. So once again, just like a show, I go, you shouldn't look at it like, well, I don't want to do that show because it might be so hard and I might get my feelings hurt or I might not place well. Well, bodybuilding is probably the most brutal sport from a mental standpoint that there is, not just because of the dieting and the training that go along with it. It's when you get to that stage, if you don't do well, your ego, your heart, everything is almost shattered instantaneously. I hate to say it. It's hard. And anyone who says they don't experience that, I'm going to tell them they're a liar, because you experience it. Mm-hmm. When you don't get that first call out, it's tough. It's tough. And like I said, I go, as a judge, you see it in people's faces. You see it in their mannerisms, their body language. You see so many things. But the greatest part of it is, like I say, I go, if you can change that small moment of defeat to a large victory, then you're getting somewhere. Mm-hmm. So my AirPods tell me I have 10%, which is fun. So I might be ripping them out of my ear and be going old fashioned on this, but we'll get through it. But I really like the idea of being able to talk to people on a personal level, and also it's almost like documenting their experience even further. Years ago we used to have, we had no stage photographers. Then you got the stage photographers. Then you got videographers doing side. Then you have paparazzi side. Now you have, interviews backstage, and you have different types of, but what I want to do is take it a step further for people. And that's where I think you come into play to help them have the best experience, and also feel that someone is taking, outside of, we're all taking concern in what they're doing. And that's kind of where we're heading with all this, is we want people to know that we've been, whether we've been in your shoes or we are in your shoes, we're a competitor, past competitor, we know, we understand, and we're here for each other. So I think it's a great idea, and I just can't wait to see it get unfold. And I know it's going to be one of those things that as we start doing it, it's going to morph into bigger and bigger. I just know you, and I know how it's going to work. So I'm excited. Like I said, oh no, hopefully you're so full of beans. You're so silly, so silly. You're fine. But no, we're gonna have a good time. And that'll be something that people will see you at all the shows, and they're gonna see, they're gonna see you, doing your thing. And it's definitely going to be a lot of fun to see you talking to people and bringing out the best in them. And like I
Oh,
said, we're going to have a good time this year. And the 10th anniversary of the Clash, like I said, it's going to continue to up the bar. That has always been my mantra and all this. It's let's up the bar, make it more fun, make it more exciting, make it an event. If you ever notice, I never call them shows. I always call them events.
no.
I always call it. I said this year you have 7 main events, or what I always call it main events. I go because it is. It's something when you train that hard. It's not just a show. It's not just another day. It's not it is an event in your life, and that to me once again is another reason why I take this. I take it seriously, but I also want people to know that we're going to have fun and we're going to be laughing and smiling the whole time. And we've all been there, every one of us. Like the people that I surround myself on my cruise with, I'm very selective on who I want at the events and who I think is important because they convey the same message I am. And that to me is a important piece of this pie. So I'm excited, but I
Me
should probably
too. If people have
yeah,
fun listening to us like this, just wait till you're behind the mic and I'm talking to you guys like, what's going on? What's happening through this prep? Because the thing I've noticed, like, as bodybuilding has expanded more, like, I know when I first started competing, I loved getting the magazine. And I still have this, by the way, I'm going to show you. I've saved this for years. It was just to put on like a vision board, but I've kept it always. And it's from the NPC News magazine. And then I remember like the more I got into it, I was like, I'm just gonna watch YouTube videos and all these backstage interviews. And then I was just having a conversation the other day in the podcast studio. I was like standing there and I'm like looking around like, wow, this is really happening. And what I think about is we can look back on some of the best of the best of the best in the industry, these men who have been around for ages, like the golden era of bodybuilding, let's say. And you see these interviews with them, you see them training, and I'm like, I want to be that for the bikini division. I want people like I'm sitting here like I hope people will look back and be like, oh, well, where can I find all this history of bikini and see confessions of a bikini pro? But then the vision expands further, and I'm like, okay, now beyond that, what do I want them to take from it? It's who are these people beyond social media, beyond the stage? Who are they? So then when I came to you and we think about, okay, let's interview these athletes off the stage, it's because, like you said, this is an event in their life. And I love that perspective. I never thought of it like that, but we're essentially documenting an event in their life. And we're saying, what does this mean to you? Not just now, but like, and we change, we evolve over time, but
yeah.
it's cool
And
to be in that moment.
And the other thing is always remember there is an impact to every person you meet every day. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I go, you can hold the door open for someone and make their day. And it's a simple thing, but I go, how you put yourself in the universe, how you act, how you speak to people, how you have compassion and kindness and empathy and sympathy and all the other different, things that we do. I go, that's what makes you human. And it is an event. It is something that's very important to them and very important to all of us. I go, because like I said, I go, the sport has given me everything. So for me,
Yes.
it's sometimes hard to wrap your brain on that. It's been part of my life now since really when you're like 13, 14 years old, the first time a kid touches a weight, you're hooked. You're either hooked or you hate it, one of the two. And
Or you hate it so much, but you love it at the same time.
well, that's just because I was just going to say you're a sadomasochist, but no, I don't. It's a very powerful thing. I go, so it's been part of my life for since I was a teenager. So I don't know anything else, and it's not. It became so ingrained, and it doesn't even matter. It doesn't have to be like at a show or in the gym or anywhere else. It's like I just, you, once again, you surround yourself with the people in life that are like you and everything else. So I have friends who call me up now, they'll just leave me a voicemail, and it's a quote from frickin' Pumping Iron in 1975, or 77. So, just things that you did, and we still find it funny. Other people be like, what is wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
But it's little things that
I think I know what quote you're talking about. Which
I can quote the whole movie. I can quote the whole movie for you, but I know what you are. You're a dirty girl, you dirty girl. I know where you're going. But no, I go, my whole life has been, and I've been and done some amazing things with some of the most about. I've worked with Schwarzenegger. I've worked with Franco Columbo. Um, I've been all around the world. I've hung out with, guys that I still see at shows, like when Samir Bannout sees me, Chris Dickerson, I used to go sit in his living room, on and on and on. And I go, these are the guys who made me who I am, because they were my role models, or my people that I saw. And I was fortunate because I had a training partner who was already friends with them, because he had lived in LA for, 2 years in 83 and 84. Actually, I take that back. It was 82 and 83. And it meant a lot, because when we go places, they'd see him and then he'd introduce me to him, and then we just became friends. It's just how it all kind of unrolled. And I love every minute of it. And I don't, not a day that goes by that I'm not thinking something bodybuilding. Even on days like this weekend, I'm going to try and take some time off, and I'm going to clean my house and, do laundry and all the other stuff that everybody does. And I'm going to go, I'm sure my brain will be thinking about bodybuilding in some way, or how to make somebody's day better in the bodybuilding world. Because that's the only thing that we should be. And it's not just bodybuilding, just happens to be the driver and the catalyst behind this, but it's how we should be all the time.
Yeah.
If we were actually a little more kind to people, things would be a lot easier. And sometimes people, they don't see it. And I always go, that's okay. I'm not going to stop being me. I'm going to continue being the same goofball I am, and have fun with this and enjoy every moment, and at least know that I had a purpose. And that is one of the things that I think most people will go through life and they don't understand. You do have a purpose. You're here for a reason. What it is, I can't tell you. You got to figure that out on your own. But I will say this. I know that one of my biggest attributes that I can give to people is the positivity and the support that they might need at the right time. And sometimes people just need a little push, and need a little support, need a shoulder to cry on, a hand to hold. It is what it is. And I go, for a lot of people, they never know where that came from. For me, it all came through bodybuilding. Everything in my life came through this sport. So I'm eternally grateful for that. And once again, I go, I'm just looking forward to getting this season started. I go, I never thought the words 2024 coming out of my mouth are just kind of freaking me out a little bit. Because, time stops for no one, none of us. And that's why I always tell people, your career might not be longer than, it might be shorter than you think, because time hasn't stopped. So, once again, I go, enjoy every moment, enjoy every day, try to be good, put good in the world, try and do the right things for people. Everything will be fine. But like I go, we all have days, but
We do.
give it a try. But anyways, we probably have talked enough. We probably should wrap this thing up. And unless you have
something we need to address. There are things that I needed to address with you that I know I would be regretful if I didn't. So
okay, fire away.
Okay, so there are a million other things we could talk about. I have a random question. This wasn't one of the things I wanted to talk about, but now it's something I just randomly thought of. People talk a lot about bodybuilding being maybe more mainstream, taking a like televised, let's say, like televising the Mr. Olympia, televising all these shows, like getting it into the mainstream. We see, of course, that most people are producing their own content, or they have that content from, like, it's on YouTube. Like, we get to watch them every day, like me and you talked about. What's your personal take on bodybuilding going to that mainstream level of like being on national TV, let's say, versus what it
I
is
mean,
now.
we did it for years, and especially the late 80s, early 90s, when the Arnold Classic, it was always on Wide World of Sports. It was broadcast, for free basically, and you had the biggest movies. Well, the you got to remember, bodybuilding to the extreme will always be a niche sport, a niche activity. We have this conversation all the time. I go, bodybuilding per se is the only sport where the sport actually doesn't occur the day that you're on stage.
Yeah,
the sport is
exactly.
everything you do getting ready to get on stage. The day of a contest, I go, it's a subjective contest. It's something someone else is choosing what they see as it's not, you don't measure it. We don't measure the bicep. We don't measure. So Trey and I argue about this all the time. We have a running joke, and he's like, it's a sport on stage. And I'm like, well, not really. It's not. It's the sport leads up to the stage. But however you want to split it, I go, it is a very unique world. Now, if the divisions continue to, were to grow more, if there were more divisions, maybe with less muscle, where it was like more of a, like where Bikini started. If you look where Bikini was and where it is now, it is progressed. It's progressed into more muscle, different shape, a different look. But I go, once again, when I talk about all inclusion, I go, not everybody's going to want to watch a 300-pound Nick Walker, Big Ramy on stage. It's just not for everybody. So it has been, and this is why I've had conversations with like Jake Wood, and I said, Jake, why don't you just start your own TV channel? So I talked to Jake, and I said, Jake, when you bought the Olympia, you acquired all the rights to Muscle and Fitness, to, video, to, there's a lot of things that, you could do, and I've even talked to JM about this. Why don't we centralize it into, and I think they might think it's too big of an undertaking now, but I think eventually that's where you'll see it go. You'll see that it is more of a, where it could be a station like on a Roku or on a, Apple TV or whatever it is, where it's just even if it was a $10 a month pay subscription, I go, where it could be played all the time. And I think a lot of people would, especially now that we have contests all over the world, everything is filmed. I mean, everything is live webcast. Every show becomes archived. We used to do that years ago. They just put it on VHS tape. Yeah. So I go, I really think that will happen eventually. I think right now it's kind of still always going to be an underground sport. I don't want to say underground. I hate using that word. It's going to be kind of its own little thing because it's not for everybody. No. Let me, I always tell people this. I go, when I was in high school, my senior year, I was 235, 240 pounds competing. I couldn't get a date in high school.
You were too big?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nowadays, women are like, how tall is he? What's his weight? That sounds good. They want that. No, not everybody, but
no, but you were considered not normal. You were considered like, oh my God, let me put it this way. They always did the weight room test and everything else. And it was like, the football players be in there and the kid would be like, hey, he just squatted 405. I'd walk in and do it for 15.
Yeah.
And I didn't play because I was working a job in high school and going, and competing. That was my thing. All I wanted to do was lift and, but back then you were considered an anomaly. Like, well, why is this guy even, I couldn't fit into a pair of jeans my legs were 31 inches around.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get my legs through jeans. There was no way. Either. So I go, but women did not find that attractive back then. I thought it was funny as hell.
That's crazy. You know what? In high school, for me, I would carry around my Tupperware and my water jug, and people looked at me like I was crazy. Like when it was off-campus lunch, I was taking a nap in my car because I was up at 4:30 a.m. either doing jujitsu or most of the times I was in the gym lifting. Then I would have school, and then I'd have volleyball practice, and then I'd be coaching volleyball. So during my lunch break, I'm like chugging my water, of course, throughout the day. I've already eaten most of my Tupperware. I'm like, perfect, I'm going to take a nap. And people thought that was strange. Or they were like, oh, Celeste is trying to be like a football player. She's carrying around a gallon of water. It's like, no, and people were giving me hate in high school, like commenting on my videos of me in the gym and stuff. And I was like, I don't care. To me, this is who I am now.
Well, so I was always eating. I mean, always, I had food always in my, and I remember we were in 10th grade biology class, and I had a turkey in one piece of turkey in one hand, and I was dissecting a frog with the other. I didn't
Oh
care.
no.
I was like, I got to eat.
Good thing
You
you
know,
took a bite out of the right hand, right?
no, I didn't make sure I didn't eat the frog, although the frog legs probably would have been fine. But the hide. But I go, but it was so funny because even the teacher was like supportive, but
Oh,
none of the classmates were. The classmates hated it. They
right.
were like, "How come he gets to eat and we can't?" And the teacher would be like, "Because he's a competitive bodybuilder." So
Yeah.
it was kind of fun in some ways.
Cool.
Certain people really were supportive, made me laugh. Certain didn't know what the hell was going on. Um, Girls and guys thought you were just some kind of weirdo, some kind of weird freak.
What was your hair like?
A mullet.
Yeah. You were a mullet guy?
Well, it was the '80s. I mean, come on, it was kind of cool. But no, that was it was always short on the sides and long in the top. And you got so long in the back. I used to put it in a ponytail while I was squatting.
Oh my gosh. You gotta be
Uh,
careful with it.
yeah. No, but I go, if I could go back in time, I go, yeah, I was probably a little extreme. But I go, once again, the sport
Yeah.
is extreme. And even let's fast forward. A lot of people would think that our bikini girls are too extreme. And that's, once again, like I said, I go, it's a small percentage, but the other part of it is you can take one of our bikini athletes and put them on a beach, and everyone will stop her and want to know what she does. Females, men will want to take her out on a date. I go, it's pretty much a sign of good health and a good look. And that's why I'm also very protective of the category, because I'm one of those people who will fight tooth and nail if it gets too big, too hard, too this, too that. And I'm always looking at it from a bigger point of view. Um, the problem we have is that, let's face it, we all gravitate to muscle and condition. We're wowed by it. I mean, when you're in this sport long enough, you appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful with criteria, that it stays within the criteria that is given, and that we don't let it get too far. But, as for like broadcasting, like I said, I go, if Arnold at the time was the biggest movie star in the world and it still wasn't getting viewership on free on a Saturday afternoon, it kind of tells you how small the market really is. Even though it's big, I mean, you go to the Olympia and you think, oh my God, look at all these people, and there's another million people around the world watching it. It's not drawing what, say for instance, the NFL does, or some
Right.
other major sport. So it will always be different. But I go, it's a good different. It's our different. And I always tell people, I go, there's opportunities. It's just a matter of how they're going to proceed with them and how much time it'll take. But I think your answer to that is it will be back on TV as always, but it'll be in a specialty type package. It's not going
Yeah.
to be on, same reason it's never been in the Olympics. I mean,
Right. That would
we
be
could
a
go down
strange.
that road. Yeah, we could go down that road and talk about that for hours. But I go, that's been one of those things that it's just not gonna do. It's just so.
Yeah.
But what else you got?
So you actually started to broach the subject, which I wanted to discuss with you. Obviously, we're post Olympia now. We saw Tyler's review of the Olympia and why people were placed the way they were placed and what the results were. What was your perspective there?
My perspective was, once again, I break it down like a coach with progressions on, so I was sitting at the table, doing the judging work. I'm looking at my progressions, and I go, we, as in lockstep, most judges were all about the same, when it came to the top 8. There were a few that some slipped in a little higher, some slipped a little lower, but for the most part, I go, my thought, I just didn't think Maureen brought her best. And I've judged Maureen now for years, since she's really started as a pro. And this was probably I don't want to say I was a little more disappointed in her package than I was anything else. And in actuality, I had Maureen in third.
Yeah.
And I had Kaltwasser in second, and I had Dory in first. And my reasoning behind it was, I go, that was a good look for me to help grow the sport.
Yeah.
And she was where she needed to be. So and of course I have critiques for Jen, and Jen and I talk, and I tell her, what I think, and little things that she can do still to improve. And she's so funny because I've had the conversation with her. I said, Jen, if you don't get somewhere in time, sometimes your lower legs swell. I mean, you notice things about athletes that you have to kind of keep them cognizant of. And you say, okay, get wherever you're going a week or two early, put your feet up, do this, do that, take care a little different in the hair and the makeup next time, but it's all these little things that add up at that level because it's so close. Those top, I tell people first off that the Olympians altogether are close, but the top 15, you're splitting such hairs to try and find that imaginary criteria that you're looking for. But I mean, I looked at it and I go, no, I was very happy with Jen as my choice for winning it. And Kaltwasser is always consistent. And that's what I love about Ashley. She always brings her best. And sometimes it's a hair better, sometimes a hair worse, but it's always consistent. So that's what I saw at the Olympia. I mean, once again, I had a great
candor. Yeah, I liked your candor. I think that's very important because we need to hear from a judge's perspective, like what's going through your head. And something that I think a lot of what I see in different groups and perspectives on it is it's everybody's body type is also different, or their shape is different. And bikini's unique in that.
I just had this conversation with Sandy yesterday. I said, take our top 5 at the Olympia. You have an apple, a banana, a pear, plum, and a peach. I go, you got 5 different shapes up there. Each one is a little different, but all of them are killer. I go, so now it's our job to kind of put it together. And that's why you also have at the Olympia, you got 13 judges because, you're also looking at it from a bigger perspective. And I go, and all those judges on that panel, they all know they're good judges. So I go, they all know what they're looking at. And they might say, well, but she's got a little less this, or her shoulders are a little bit too big, or her, glutes aren't round enough here, or she's not tight enough there. Or so it does get talked through, and it's well thought over. It's not something that, isn't really discussed over and over and over again. And then it continues to get discussed. And I go, the hardest part is even in, if you go to bodybuilding, you look at it and you go, okay, it's always been size, shape, symmetry, proportion, conditioning. Those are your criteria. It's really simple. There's 5 things. Sometimes people can get wowed, like especially a spectator, and it's just you're looking at it and they go, well, but he's the biggest guy. And I go, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's the best guy. So, with our bikini athletes, we might have one that's a little more athletic than another one. She got a more athletic shape, more athletic, like Camille. Camille was always a more athletic body. And then you have the rounder shapes, the going back a ways here, because I like to stay, kind of historical perspective here. You had the Jen Ronzidis and the, athletic, but more round, more shapely. Angelica was that way. And I look forward to seeing how Angelica looks coming back at the Arnold this year.
I can't wait.
But I go, it's a different, each body is very different. And it takes it into the, the hardest part is then, people say, well, how come at this show? And it's like, you do understand that each show is different too. And each body is different, and stage lights, different things. There's so many things that, simple as to how they're tan or how their glutes were oiled that can make a huge difference when they hit that stage. I go, in some days it's just your day. You're right on. You carb to the right point. Your body fat's low enough but not too far. Everything is popping, and boom, it's just what happens. I go, in other days the consistency is not there. So I go, it's a very hard. Bikini is by far the hardest division for people to judge because of it's not as simple. It's not as cut and dry. But those criteria, they stand. They really make sense if you know them. And if you read, I tell people all the time, go read the criteria on, NPC News Online. And they go, yeah, but you picked a girl who had, like for instance, she was in women's physique and she had striations on her. And I go, yes, she did have some. it allows for some, but shouldn't be overdone. And you also have to start weighing that now. Okay, what about the rest of the physique? Was the size there? Was the shape there? Was this there? Was that there? And as a judge, I always tell people, I go, if you were to ask me my personal opinion, because this is personal opinion doesn't weigh in when you're comparing to criteria, I'm a shape person. So for me, the shape of the body, especially in our female divisions, is more important than hardness. That's just me. Now, I have to remember, you still have to be in condition. So I can't just say, well, she's got better shape. I can't do that. But I can look at it and go, if the combination is there, that shape is going to carry her through. That's how I view it. And that's my interpretation of the criteria. So I see it as important. Everything is important, but I also see it as, if you don't have, it's called bodybuilding for a reason. You have to have muscle.
Yeah.
Have shape. So it's not, Jim Mannion himself looked over at me one time sitting at a judge's table, and he goes, and someone was saying how great the guy was because, and it was a man who, he was so in condition. And Jim's words were, it's not a diet contest. Because the guy didn't have the shape, the muscle bellies, all the things that bodybuilding, especially men's bodybuilding, is looking for. So you can't pick one thing and not make, I call it the word composite. There has to be a composite to the physique. It has to be overall pleasing and overall all there. You can't have one piece with it. Pieces, parts don't, if anything, I've learned over the course of time, don't get wowed by like a guy with big biceps when he has no back and no legs.
Or the girl with the really tiny waist, but no shape.
Nothing. Yeah, no shape otherwise. Flat glutes, no, tiny waist. But I go, you have to have muscle. It is bodybuilding, and it will always be bodybuilding. So, but I had fun at the Olympia this year. I think I do every year. This, like I said, was the 6th year in a row I was asked to do it, and to me that was a nice honor. I look at it and I go, it's such a spectacle, and watching the stage productions and getting to know the people that run the show, being friends with Jake and Tamer, and and seeing how they work that whole weekend, it's amazing. There's just so much going on and so many people responsible for so many parts, but it really is a large undertaking. And now next year we go back to Vegas, and I don't know. I enjoyed it when it was here in Orlando because it was 45 minutes from my house. We'll as everything, it moves back next year into October, which makes it a little earlier in the season. I'm looking forward. Like I said, 2024 has got a lot of great things coming up, and a lot of great shows too, and a lot of pro shows too. So we're all going to be a busy bunch of workers for sure.
Joe, do you see any, like, if someone were to bring their best, like they could maybe be an up and comer, if you want to say that, or they could like really crack through, any standouts from this year, whether that was at the amateur level or the pro level?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, look at the girl, the one who won the, her name is Sharon Ramos. Sharon won the All South, gets her pro card 3 days later at the Olympia Amateur, wins the overall, then goes to Timmy's Atlantic Coast, and I think she placed 3rd in the pros. I mean, just that, and we've seen that. I mean, we've seen a lot of great athletes that when you're good, you're good. There's no denying you. And I go, listen, the word I use this word a lot when I talk to athletes. You want to win? And they go, yeah. And I go, then be undeniable. I go, then you can't say, well, you picked her. Maybe we were about the same, but you picked her because she did better at a contest before me, or she won, was 10th at the Olympia last year. Beat her. Be undeniable. I go, make it so that I can't take my eyes off of you on that stage. Make it so that everybody looking at it goes, well, there's your winner who's 2nd through 10th.
What's the wow factor for you, though? I know you said shape, but what is it that you think captivates a judge and makes them like, I can't look away from this person?
Are we still talking bikini, or are we talking overall?
Let's talk bikini, but also share your thoughts overall, because maybe there's a theme there.
Yeah. So bikini is, when I say the word composite, I go the shape, the conditioning, the actual how you look, and then of course down to how you pose. I see a lot of really good posers and I see a lot of bad posers. There's some girls who can't walk in heels and they're at the Olympia. But I go, those are little things that they all play into your brain. But when someone has it and they just have that moment where it's like, okay, I'll never forget, it was the Tampa Pro a couple years, maybe 3 years back, whatever it was. To me, Jen Ronzini walked out on stage and it was just a wow factor. To me, it wasn't even like, I could not take my eyes off of her conditioning, her shape, everything that day, down to her hair, makeup. I mean, every tan, everything was spot on. So for me, that was an easy, that's who I was going with. I never wavered. The panel ended up splitting and Jen Dory won that day by 5 points. And I go,
it was huge for her.
Which is huge for her. But I looked at it and I go, to me, that's what I look for. I look for a complete, total in bikini. When you have it and you walk out, and when Jordan Brandon won the Carolina Grand Prix the one year up in Charleston, her and Jody Yunker were actually neck and neck going into finals. She walked out at finals, and I don't know what it was. It was almost like I tease her and her husband Drew all the time. I say it was like there was a glow around her. I go, she just walked out, and I leaned over to Sandy and I go, well, that's done.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I call it the it factor. I go, when you have that it factor, and all of our girls do, I go, it's just some days it's almost like it all falls together. I go, and as a judge, when they walk out, you go, yep, there it is, 100%. And it just happens. It's so hard to explain. I go, when a girl is on in bikini, and it's like, just, there's something about everything. It's like, it's all there. The shape is there. The fullness is there. The tan is there. Everything is exactly the balance, which is probably the most important word you could use in bikini. And God forbid if I didn't bring that word up. I go, to me, just like anywhere else in bodybuilding, balance is so important. But I go, when they're balanced and the physique is on and the conditioning is right, and then all the other ancillary pieces are there, like I said, the tan, the hair, the makeup, the walk, the posing, I go, you ain't gonna beat that. When it's all there and it all falls into line on that day, that's it. So I go, bikini is a definite it factor. And when all those things come, it comes in a big force. I go, it really does. And like I said, that's why I tell athletes, if you're really worried, don't give yourself things to worry about. Just be undeniable. And that's easier said than done, obviously, but that's kind of how I view it. I go, you just got to make it so that we can't take our eyes off of you. And that can go for any category. If you walk out on stage and you're a bodybuilder and your quads and your back and your arms and everything is balanced, and you're etched and you're striated and everything is perfect, it's your day. You're gonna, if you're in balance, you're gonna win. It's hard to beat that. It's really hard. So once again, I go, it's a subjective thing. We are looking at, however many bodies on a stage at one time. We're trying to sort them in our brain. I call it the quarterback progression is what I call it. For instance, in the Olympia, you got 54 girls on the stage. We got to make call outs. And as a judge, the one thing you always want to see is that I don't care if you stop judging at 15 or not, everybody becomes quote unquote 16 and under. I go, what you have to realize is that when I make those call outs, each group should be like, kind, and quality. Hold on for 1 second. I got the FedEx man at the door.
No worries. No worries.
Rings. I'm not sure.
Oh, if it's the Tiffany rings, you should show us.
I'm not sure if that's what it is or not. Uh-oh.
It is. Let's go. What great timing is that? Come on. Well, you got to explain to everybody why this is happening. I know why it's happening, but can you explain to everybody?
Yeah, I mean, every year at the Klash for our Open Pro, they not only get the Olympia qualification, the prize money, all the other happy, fun stuff, trophies, and the champion belt and everything else, but they also get from Tiffany Jewelers, they get one of these really cool Tiffany rings.
So beautiful.
I'm trying to get it so it's close enough so you can see it without being blurry, but
maybe put your other hand behind it. Oh yeah, that's good. There you go.
They are really pretty.
That's awesome. Well, it's a nice thing to be able to keep that will always last, as opposed to maybe the trophy that breaks when you move.
Well, I always tell them it's the wearable trophy. I always go, you can wear it all year round. But I go, and tell me one girl who doesn't like Tiffany jewelry.
I've never had it, so I don't know, but I'm sure I would like it. Comes in a really pretty blue.
Bulgari. I go, they're all beautiful. I go, each one's different. I'm kind of a jewelry snob too. David Yerman, I go, no, I like jewelry is always great. But once again, like I always say, I go, it's the meaning behind it. So like, no matter what, these girls will always go, I won that contest and wear the thing. And it reminds me of that win. So for me, I go, it's meaning. Everything is meaning. I go, that's kind of how you have to live your life. It has to have some type of importance.
Well, I'm gonna be wrapping this up anyways, because I'm gonna call in like 20 minutes. But let me ask you another question, or kind of just explore one other subject. So first of all, that was a great review on balance, and I want to share that I used to see balance differently than when I spoke with you for the very first time. So when I spoke with you for the very first time, you looked at my stage shots and you put your hand over my upper body and then you put your hand over my lower body. You're like, your lower body looks like a pro's legs. Your upper body doesn't look right. And I was like, okay, now I get it. Because for me in the past, I thought balance was like, you have this shape of a bikini competitor and like, that's what you need is like this hourglass shape, this beautiful S, like everything. But then I realized balance is also how conditioned are you on top, and is that matching the bottom? How full are you on top, and is that matching the bottom? I started to see it after that conversation. I was like, something clicked where I was like, okay, it's better to bring something that matches top to bottom than to bring something that's like incredible bottom and then really great upper, but it looks off. So I learned from that.
Remember what I just said a few minutes ago? I said you can be wowed by a body part. And a great example will be, and this can happen, you'll see it happen. She had the best glutes on stage. And I've looked at judges and I go, okay. And she has no shoulders, nothing up top. Her legs are too small for her rest of her body, et cetera, et cetera. I go, so there is no balance. So she might have great glutes. So she's got a part, but she's not complete. And to be honest, I go, it's the rest of we're looking at your whole body. We're not just looking at it's not a best glutes contest.
Right.
And that can be said in bodybuilding. You could say, well, it's not a best bicep contest. It's not a best pecs. It's not, it's not a singular part. It is the body as a whole. So I know we got to get going here and wrap this up, but I'm just going to leave you with this. When I was brought up in bodybuilding, in the guys that, obviously were with me were guys who were 10, 20 years older than I was. They instilled in me, they always said your neck, your arms, and your calves should always be within 1/2 inch of each other or approximately the same size. Because there was an old bodybuilder named Steve Reeves, the one who was Hercules and all the other stuff. He was Mr. America in the late 40s. And then he became, an actor and he was like the first Arnold. And his neck, his arms, and his calves were all the same size. They were 17.5 inches. And they considered that the most proportional man on the planet. And once again, as we've grown into time,
arms like this part of your arms or like this part?
His biceps around his arm. Yeah. So if you made a muscle and you threw your bicep up, they measured it.
It should match your neck and it should match your calves. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it was proportion. It was how your body looks when you stand, what we're supposed to do in bodybuilding is create a moving piece of artwork. And I use this analogy a lot. I tell athletes all the time, you're a moving piece of art on stage, because that's really what you are. You're building a sculpture.
That's such a beautiful thing to think of yourself too, just to interject. I really like that way of thinking about yourself.
And I try to explain to people, I go, you're a moving piece of art, and you're always constantly trying to balance and perfect. Whereas a sculptor can take, that clay or or stone and chisel it. You have to build the tissue. And I've had girls that'll say, but my glutes are good. And I'll say, yes, but you need to actually build the tissue. And they pause and they go, no one's ever put it like that. And I go, it takes time to build tissue. Just like if you said to me, I need to have bigger biceps, I have to train them and I have to grow them. It's not going to get bigger by just eating food or dieting. That's not going to build the tissue. I go, so if you have flat glutes, you have to build them rounder. And it's something that takes time. Everything we do, we picked a sport that has no end. And it's actually it's a cruel sport, because the older you get, the harder it is to build tissue or to maintain. So I go, it's a very interesting world we live in. But I go, it's something that proportion and balance, and they're so important in how I view it, and in the criteria that I have in my brain, that's what I view. And when athletes get up there, I look for that probably right off the rip. And like I said, when everything is in line, then you got a slam dunk. And that's the fun part of what we do. I always say judges' jobs are like putting a big puzzle together. And if you like doing puzzles, or you like challenges like that, those like little mental challenges, it's a great job for you. Eye to detail. I always say most of our judges should probably be professional detectives, or something like that, because they have eyes for detail that catch little things. And it's the little things sometimes that are separating at that highest level who's going to do well and who's going to be first and fifth. So anyways, we should probably wrap it up. We've done a lot.
I just really wanted to highlight the type of impact you've made in not just my life, but others. And because you take the time to give such great feedback and insight, it's able to then touch other people. And that's how we can, I think, maintain a standard that we all know we're supposed to be working towards as athletes, to bring our best. And that conversation with you really has formatted a lot of my approach in this improvement season. I also think about your analogy with the lean meat when you go to the grocery store. You remember telling me about the lean meat?
Of course, yep. Yep.
I'm like,
how your body builds muscle, how it builds fat, how it, it's just, it's interesting to watch, people when you say something like that and they really think about it and they go, you're right. If I took a pound of meat and I put it all over this portion of, it doesn't seem like a lot. It doesn't seem like it's going to make a difference, but it's a huge difference. Small amounts of muscle tissue are big. I go, it can reshape your entire body, and that's the whole goal of what we're doing. So it's just, for me, like I said, it's a never-ending inquisitive study on how we perform, how we look, how we build. And like I said, I go, we are active sculptures, so it's kind of fun to watch and see, especially when you get to know athletes, which I have over the last 10 years or whatever. It's fun to watch them change and see what they look like now. Or I use these words a lot. All right, let's reshape it. It can be done. Yeah, you're fighting genetics, sure, but you can still change your look. You can still change your body. I go, and bikini is an interesting area for that as well, because we might say, oh, you got too thick in the waist, or you got too much muscle up top, or your legs got too big, or this. You can change it. I can't tell you how many of our pro bikini girls I know that really don't do too much work for their upper body because they're already at the max capacity. And, some vice versa. Obviously, it happens more often for women. They can't train their legs because their legs are at max capacity. So you're training a whole different way because you're trying to build a physique that is balanced and is proportionate. And like I said, I go, to me, it's just fun to watch and fun to see people make improvements, and to be invested with people in their time is is amazing. So, but we better cut it loose because we have been doing this now for 2 hours, 46 minutes. Your editor is going to kill us. You're going to have to split this into like 3 because people are going to hate us. They're going to be like, okay, I want to watch the first part, but it's too much. It's too much to go.
Well, the best part is like my assistant, I tell her don't edit anything unless it's like, FedEx delivery or interruption or like a technical issue, because I love it to be as real as possible. And so I hope you guys listening enjoyed this. I know that the banter is always appreciated and it was celebrated last time. So I'm excited for this upcoming year and season. We're going to kick it off in January at the Women's Workshop, and then we're going to take it from there. And as you said, we're going to just keep raising the bar. Now, if you guys want to connect with Joe, Instagram is Joe_Pishkula. Did I say your last name right?
You did. Exactly right.
And then
otherwise, just look for Klash series.
I was just gonna say that. Yes, Klash_championship_series. And then the website is the Klash. Let me double check. Theklash.com. Theklash.com. So yes.
With the K. Make sure you always spell it with the K.
With a K, that's right. And if you are already registered for the National Women's Workshop and you want to attend my breakout session, of course, go to the Women's Workshop website where you got your ticket and you got registered. Go to the breakout sessions category. You don't just have to sign up for mine. Obviously, you have so many to choose from. So make sure you check that out. Get your name on those lists, because it will be good to just know what you can expect and also see what there is to offer and kind of tie everything together.
Absolutely. And I highly recommend you sit in. I've listened to Celeste talk, but I've listened to you talk before, and she's very good for everybody out there who hasn't. You'll learn a lot, you'll think a lot, and you'll enjoy yourselves. And like I said, the whole weekend is going to be fun, and we're only really like 3 weeks away. It's going to be here before we know it. So looking forward to seeing everybody in Orlando in 3 weeks. And then, of course, at all the Klash shows back in Orlando and Charleston and Aiken, and of course, the national shows all over the country and pro shows around the country, around the world. You never know where I'm going to turn up.
That's true. That's true. So to everybody listening, thank you guys for tuning in again. Of course, we appreciate ratings, reviews, and when you share this, tag us after you listen. Let us know what stood out to you. And if you're looking for a full episode summary, as well as timestamps and those links to connect and sign up for the Klash series shows, then go to celestial.fit/podcast. You will find all the notes there. And the cool part about that too is you can easily share it with your friends, your families, your teammates, let them know that you're excited about this and what they can expect when they attend these events as well. So thank you guys so much. And Joe, thank you for your time as always.
Of course. And thank you for having me. And let me tell you what, you can use this as a teaser right here. If you help us get to 1 million views, I know we appreciate everybody out there, and I know on behalf of the NPC and of course the IFBB Pro League, the Klash series, obviously Jim and Tyler and all of our leaders, we're very appreciative for all of you, and we're very thankful. So I look forward to having a great year, and let's go in 2024 and have a good time, and keep training hard, keep eating right, and keep living it. I'll see y'all soon.